All right, so I think we have nearly everyone here. Let's go ahead and we'll get started here, Will. So hey everyone, happy Monday. Hope you're all doing well. So for this week, Karin will be your main instructor and Caitlin will be your teaching assistant again. But before Karin and Caitlin kind of take over here, we are very fortunate to have an amazing guest speaker joining us today, Will Geisbond, who is a former intern of Hack Upstate and Careers in Code, joining us tonight, taking some time out of his busy schedule. So he'll be telling you all about who he is shortly and some of his story. But Will has been absolutely instrumental in helping with our first cohort of Careers in Code and really helped to get the ball rolling with our second cohort as well. So I'd certainly encourage you all to pick his brain on the experiences he's had with Hack Upstate and Careers in Code. And again, like Hack Upstate and Careers in Code, we would not be where we are today without Will and his instrumental support of the program. So with that, let's give a big round, big nice virtual round of applause for Will, who will be taking over here. So Will, if you want to go ahead and share your screen and take it away.
All right, can you guys see that?
Yep.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Jesse, for that overly kind introduction. It's great to be here. Like Jesse said, I'll get into a little bit about more of my experience in a minute, but I recognize a lot of your faces. I probably was present in many of your interviews back at the beginning of this year, so it's awesome to see you guys here. You know, as Careers in Code students, it's quite funny actually. Karin and Caitlin, I remember like it was yesterday when you guys were walking in for your first day of cohort 1. So it's really great to see you guys taking on an instructor role. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. So I'm going to try to breeze through this presentation. I want to talk to you guys and I want you to ask me questions. And like Jesse said, I want to try to provide as much information as possible to you. So hopefully we can kind of get through the formalities pretty quickly. And at any point, if you have a question, please unmute yourself, you know, make yourself known. I'd be happy to answer it. All right, so the title of my presentation is Why We're All Business Owners. And I would hope that the reason why that is will surprise you soon, but let's get into it. So first of all, who am I? Like Jesse said, I'm a former intern at Hack Upstate, and I became an operations manager the beginning of this year, sort of end of last year. Mainly my role consisted of, like Jesse said, managing the Careers in Code program, helping him and a couple other individuals do so, event execution, that sort of thing. And I spent a collective 1.5 to 2 years at Hack Upstate. I actually met Jesse when I was, I think, 14 at an open hack. So it's been a long time, which has been awesome. And right now I am a first-year student at the University of Vermont. I'm studying applied mathematical sciences with a minor in reporting and documentary storytelling. And that's a fancy way of saying that I'm interested in a lot of things and I can't decide. So you'll learn a little bit more about that and some research I'm doing in a minute as well. I'm also a reporter at the Vermont Cynic, which is our student-run newspaper. And I'm actually the webmaster. So it's been a cool application of my skills as a sort of like a person in the software development industry. And I really enjoyed my time there. I was born and raised in Syracuse, though. I've lived there my entire life. It's my first time really out of state, living out of state. So it's been awesome. So like many of you, I'm sure, have a lot of ties to the area. I spent many times downtown at the Tech Garden working with Cohort 1. And although I do wish that you guys were able to have that in-person experience, it's awesome that you're getting this virtual one because, you know, you have to be equipped to do that these days. And it's a really great experience. I'm also involved with Greek life on campus. That's just an aside. And I'm also involved in a volunteer program for bike co-ops and stuff on campus. But more specifically, some of the projects I've worked on, I helped organize really mostly the entirety of Cohort 1 alongside Jesse and Doug, who I'm sure you've met. And for me, that meant event organizing. I helped with website development. I actually led a team to create the new Careers in Code website. Caitlin, who's your TA, she was a huge part of that, and it looks fantastic, large in part to her awesome work. I also just did some program management for the various aspects of Careers in Code, namely our guest speaker program, which is kind of ironic because I'm here as a guest speaker speaking to you. It's pretty funny, an email that Jesse sent me today as a follow-up I actually wrote, so it was pretty cool for a full circle moment. And I also helped with a little bit of curriculum development in Cohort 1 and Cohort 2. I was also involved with the event side of Hack Upstate. So I helped organize 3 hackathons for me, that sponsorship organization, event planning, execution, day of. For those of you who've been to our Hack Upstate events, our hackathons, they're just a blast. And I'm itching to get back at the tech card and to join you guys and do that again. And I'm sure Jesse will have more information for you as the next event approaches. And also just program operations for the various split off programs that we had. And like I said, I would seriously encourage you guys to go to those. It's truly a blast. I made some of my most valuable connections at these events. Like I said, I met Jesse at a local Syracuse tech meetup when I was 14. We were bonding over Cheetos. So, you never know where those sort of connections can take you. And I'm going to get into that in a little bit as well. And then, like I said, outside of Hack Upstate, I'm also involved with some NASA research. Part of my interest in math is mathematical and computational algorithms. So it's been cool to see my sort of like the computer science part, the coding, software development apply to this. Right now, we're building these sort of satellites the size of a loaf of bread. We're going to put them on a rocket, put them in space, and they're going to do a lot of like computational work, looking at satellite data and that sort of thing. So yeah, and then also another thing on here that I couldn't find a photo of was that I was involved in the speaker at the Capital Region Dev Fest 2019 in Albany as part of a Google developer group split off. And I actually spoke about Cohort 1. So hopefully I have some experience speaking about careers in code, and I would like to impart that wisdom onto you today. But honestly, who cares? Like, I mean, I just told you about myself. I really hate talking about myself. Why do you guys need to know? You obviously need to know who's speaking to you today. And it's great to know that I'm just not some guy that Jesse pulled off the street. I mean, obviously I'm pretty busy. This is my calendar for a couple of weeks ago. I've got a lot going on: classes, extracurriculars, meetings. You name it. My roommates make fun of me for how many meetings I have, which is pretty hilarious. This is my monthly calendar. This was a calendar that was actually when I was working part-time at Hack Upstate, March of 2019. So again, back to the question, who cares, Well, the reality is if you're busy like I am, and I know for a fact that all of you are probably very busy right now, the beginning of this program is a lot of an influx of new information. You've got the capstone project, you've got class, you've got, career aspects that you're probably thinking about. You need a strategy to stay afloat, and more importantly, more than staying afloat, succeed and thrive. And that strategy is to run your life like a small business. And I'm sure that you've heard this before. I remember Jesse talked about it at the beginning of Cohort 1. And for me, this means a lot. I'm going to get into that. But the reason that I'm here telling you about this today is because I really think this is a fundamental part of your journey as a careers and code student. You guys all need to have these skills, have your framework, is what I'm going to call it, for managing your occupational health. And it really is about occupational health. It's about, how you're designing your experience, because it's really up to you to decide how you're going to move through this program. And so just to set the record straight a little bit, this is the start to the framework, asking these questions. What are your priorities? What are your goals? And then why do you have these goals and priorities? Why are you here? Why are you sitting in front of me today on Zoom? You need to be clear with yourself about why you're here, and possibly more generally, why you're doing anything really, to kind of get to where you're going. And I know that sounds a little existential, but I'm going to kind of continue here. So more importantly, you need to be asking who can help you reach these goals. How can you identify incremental steps for yourself to help reach them? You're going to navigate other priorities and goals to meet a more important one. Namely, I'm sure you've made all have made sacrifices to be in this program, namely time with loved ones, albeit that's obviously kind of like a shaky subject right now during the pandemic, or even just free time, possibly working in another job, or time with your children. And those are all really important things. And frankly, I'm proud of all of you. I know it's been a really tough process getting to where you are today, and I can assure you that's going to pay off. So first thing I'm going to ask is, any ideas? What do you guys think about those questions I just asked? What are your priorities? What are your goals? Why do you guys here? Would anybody be interested in sharing? And I'm not going to pressure any of you, because I know that can be kind of a sensitive subject, but if anyone is willing to share, I'd love to hear. Any brave volunteers?
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm in the midst of a career shift, and it's funny that my undergraduate coursework is just coming full circle. I remember the days of just doing HTML, and when I did the prep work, it was refresher, but then also it pushed me into new, like the functions and all of the behind the scenes tools of a full website. Back then we were just doing kind of front end, and now it's interesting to see how the industry has grown. So I'm ready.
Awesome. That's fantastic to hear. And I think you made a really great point, is sort of this whole idea of pushing yourself into these, uncharted waters, Corey. That's a big part of this. And in order to activate this framework, which I'm about to talk about, like another couple slides, you need to do that. And that's the first step of doing this. And that's awesome. So kind of on that note, moving on to some steps to success that I've used for myself, and I would hope you guys would benefit from. The first one is knowing yourself and knowing your limits. So as good as it is to do what Corey suggested and sort of plunge deep into the waters, that's often the first step. The biggest thing is to also know yourself and know, hey, when is the stopping point? Can I get too busy? I mean, I know from personal experience that I can certainly get too busy. Know when you feel burnt out, aka your limit, as this suggests. And also know your resources. One of the things that you guys really have the benefit of is the amazing people and resources at Careers in Code. Cohort 2, Laura, I did see your name in the Zoom. It's awesome that we have access to your expertise. I'm sure you're going to be a fantastic resource to the students. All the written materials, you have Jesse, you have your instructors, other program managers, Dana, they're all here for you and they're here to support you. And that should be the first stop for when you are sort of approaching that limit. And the sort of other thing I wrote here, which is kind of ironic, is to never be satisfied with your status quo. As much as you need to push yourself and do that, staying static and stagnant, is often the enemy. So when you reach that limit and you recognize it, that's a good thing. You need to kind of work to push past them. I'm going to talk about that in a second. But that shouldn't be a reason for you to stop what you're doing, because you're probably going to hit your limit in this program and say, oh, I'm too stressed. There's so much going on. I got I can see Dana smiling down there. Like I've got the capstone project. I've got the homework. Like there's so much going on. Take a step back and kind of recognize that. But then, okay, what am I going to do to move forward? And that's very important. The next thing, which I've been talking about, is to create this framework. So what tools are you going to use to organize your life, organize your path throughout this program? And think about this really about like any other coding problem. First step, right? You're going to code after you've brainstormed and thought about what you're going to do. You're going to recognize any possible failures. You're going to debug them. You're going to iterate and repeat and sort of make it better as you go. And so I'm going to talk about a bunch of tools right here. And the biggest thing is to try new things. There's a ton of stuff out there. This list is just stuff that I've used. We use this stuff at Hack Upstate as program managers. And I think you guys would benefit from that. So the first thing is Trello. It's a program management software. I'm sure you guys, it seems like you've already been introduced to that, Jesse, if I'm correct.
You are correct.
Okay, awesome. So you guys all know what Trello is. And often it seems like a good tool for working in teams. It is, that's what it's meant for. It's also a fantastic tool for your personal organization. All throughout high school, I actually used Trello as like my planner. And I just made lists about when things were due. I had tags for every class. Maybe you have tags for every module, and you go through and you can do that. It's on your phone, it's on your computer, it's wherever you need it. That worked really well for me. Next thing is Google Drive, which is pretty self-explanatory. Keeping yourself organized, whether that be on your computer or actually in Drive in general. This is a really good tactic, is just to make folders, have a structure for where you keep things. The first step to actually doing work is finding the files and finding what you're doing with them. So that's really important. Time-wise, I'm a huge lover of Calendly. And I'm sure you guys have been exposed to this as well. You definitely will be. It's essentially a software that reads your Google Calendar, and then you can send a Calendly link to people. They can look at your schedule and then book appointments with you based off of that schedule. So as long as you keep your Google Calendar up to date, which is actually my next software, you'll have a really great tool for scheduling. And as you get more advanced and more through this program, you're going to be scheduling a lot of meetings. You're going to be meeting with employers. You're going to be doing interviews. You're going to be meeting with other students. You're going to be meeting with instructors. The easiest thing to often do is just say, hey, here's my Calendly link. Book a time to schedule with me. I believe you actually all use this during the interview process, so you've definitely been exposed to it. And I think the last one here is Notion. And Notion is an awesome wiki documentation tool. We use this at Hack Upstate. I'm not sure if they still are, but we use it to categorize all of our resources. We had a lot of stuff about employee onboarding. We had all of our credentials and passwords and things in there. And it's all really well protected. It's a really cool way to kind of organize your notes and stuff. If you guys are kind of struggling to find a good note-taking system for class, I love this. I've used it for classes before. It all syncs. There's a web version, it has a sharing feature like Google Docs. So that's a really cool tool. And like I said, this is like a very small list. Generally, you want to keep your stack, is what I like to call it, pretty small, just because you know you can kind of reach to different tools. You don't want to have 20 million different tools you have to go to just to like find out when your next appointment is, right? That's not valuable. But the big thing is that by providing you all these resources, you can go through and see what you like, see what you don't like. Okay, so the next step here is to be smart, and there's a very tangible reason why I use that word. I'm not sure if any of you have been exposed to the SMART goal setting framework. Jesse and I, we used it. It was the first thing I did when I was hired here. It's a really great way to set goals. So any goals that you should set using the framework should be specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based. So specific, meaning that you don't want to just set a random general goal for yourself, because you're probably never going to reach it. If you say, you know, I want to run 100 miles in one stretch by the end of the year, which is, you know, crazy. I'm not a runner, but I don't know. That's a lot harder of a goal to reach than say, I'm going to run 2 miles tomorrow. And I think that's a very important distinction. By breaking your bigger goals down into smaller ones, you're going to get there a lot faster and a lot more categorically. It has to be measurable. Think about the same example. How do you measure your progress to a 100-mile run in a year? I mean, I don't know. It's a lot easier to look on your phone and just say, okay, I ran my 2 miles. I know that's a step I can take to my larger goal. It has to be attainable, very obvious in that example I was using. It also has to be relevant. How does this attain to your life? Why are you running 100 miles? I don't know. I don't want to run 100 miles. Why do you feel like this is important to you? And what in the context of your life does this goal represent? The thing that I've really found fortunate that I've been able to recognize just, you know, starting college is that every goal does fit into a larger one. You know, obviously maybe you have a larger attainable goal, but that 100 miles, you know, what else does it piece into? Is there a bigger piece? Maybe you're training for the Olympics. I don't know. That'd be awesome. It also has to be time-based, and this kind of ropes back into the attainable piece. Is what's your time associated with it? A year is a lot longer than a day. And honestly, just speaking from personal experience, the satisfaction of fulfilling those goals in a very short period of time makes you feel a lot better than saying, oh, I got to wait to a year mark to fulfill this goal, and I just really want it to be over with. The next thing I've got here is to make it worth it, and this really is also about the SMART goal setting. Don't put yourself through a goal that you're just going to be dredging through, right? I mean, that's not fun. Nobody wants to do that. Obviously, there are pieces of every process, just as like every career, anything you do, where you say, okay, I don't really like this as much. That's fine. That's different. That's part of your grind to be where you envision yourself being. But if you set a goal that's possibly, you know, in the SMART framework unattainable, you're probably not going to have a great time doing it, and that's really important. Namely, are you going to be happy yourself with when you're done? What is your reason for finishing? So when you do your 100 miles, what's your prize waiting for you at the end? That's a really important part. And again, I keep asking that question: who cares? Do you care? Do other people care? What value does that add to other pieces in your career down this line? Very important. And so the last thing I have, which sounds kind of less obvious, which I wrote down here, is to network like crazy. You're going to hear this a lot in this program. I know it's very valuable to the people who run this. Network building and working with others is a huge part of making your sort of overall experience a lot more organized, a lot more successful. The support systems that I talked about in the beginning of this presentation, you're going to build on those by networking. And that's a really important piece. And I have a little assignment for you guys at the end that I think will help with that. This also helps with success measurements. I've met a lot of really powerful mentors in my life that have pushed me to challenge my own measures of success. That makes my goals sometimes a lot harder, but definitely a lot more valuable to what I'm doing, and that's important. And you're going to meet those people. You definitely are. You gotta put in the effort to do that. So again, another question. We only have. I'm trying to kind of wrap up. So I've probably won't invite anyone to do this, but think about this. What works for you right now? What will you change? Maybe you're already adopting some of these aspects I'm talking about, which is fantastic. Maybe you're adopting all of them. And if you are, that's great, but what can you do better? We can always do better in this sort of thing. And I think a lot of our former students probably recognize that. We were pushing you guys to constantly sort of iterate your process throughout the entirety of the last program. So then it's a little bit of homework, and this is optional because I'm not an instructor, and Karin is definitely going to be taking the lead on that. But try it out on me. Network. I'm going to have my contact information at the end of the presentation. Send me an email, shoot me a text. Let's schedule a phone call. I'd love to talk to you guys. I'm also on LinkedIn. You can find my name. I'm on social media. Shoot me an email. I'd love to talk to you. It's a really great experience, and I promise I don't bite. Pretty busy though, so I'll have to probably shoot you a calendar link, which will be fun. And then also make your framework and create your goals. So in the context of the other tools that I've talked about, think about what you might use. Okay, I'm really struggling with remembering when my appointments are. Let's create a planner and let's work on that Google Calendar. I'm really struggling with organizing my material. Okay, let's possibly explore Notion. One thing I didn't put in this presentation was a website called Product Hunt. alloneword.com, and it's a really great resource for looking at different technology tools. If you just type into the search bar like note taking, there'll be a ton of different tools that pop up, and you can try different things, just in this example. And the biggest thing I'm going to leave you guys with is to be confident. There is no one right answer for this sort of thing in terms of creating your own framework for your success. So just because somebody else is doing something differently, or just because they're having different success measures over different periods of time, does not mean you're doing it wrong. Be confident in what feels good for you, and be confident in what works. And that's going to be very, very important as you graduate the program and move on and get a job and work with, as a professional. You guys are going to become software development professionals, which is an awesome title. Should be very excited to get to that point. And yeah, so I'll leave you with that. Finally, if there's any questions, please, unmute. I'm here. Again, homework assignment. My contact information is on the right-hand side.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Will. So much good information and good content that I hope you will take Will up on his offer. Any thoughts, feedback you have. Will has been around a long time, and so he will be your guy, for thoughts and feedback on anything that he just mentioned here today. But I'd like to open up for 5 minutes for questions, if anyone has them. So feel free to go off mute and anything at all you have for Will. Any questions?
Promise I don't bite.
No, it's a Monday. Any thoughts, feedback, reactions? Feel free to, chime in if you have any. And feel free, if you want to chat too, and we can answer them there.
Yeah, totally. And I was also going to say, I know that was just like a ton of information and very quick. So if anyone, thinks of anything like, hey, could you clarify what you're talking about? That's totally on the floor. And also just feel free to reach out to me. I'd be happy to answer any of that.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So for folks who are nervous about networking, what do you recommend as maybe some type of an entry conversation, just to introduce themselves and say, hey, I want to network with you?
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question, Dana. Thank you. So there's two parts to this. One being, if you find somebody who you're saying, okay, this person could be a role model to me. They have a career that I'm really interested in software development. Maybe, it's, for example, somebody at Density, and you're very interested in the data collection work that they're doing. Don't be afraid to send that cold call email. I've done so much of it. Find an email on LinkedIn. You could often go online and just kind of search for their contact information. Just like, hey, my name is, Will Geisbond, and I'm really interested in your work. Show that you've done the research on the person. That's a very important thing. If they're not going to care if you just kind of send some boilerplate template, but if you show that you're invested in what they're doing, that's a big piece. It's actually a tactic we use in reporting a lot when interviewing people, is to get them to tell them their story. Tell you their story. When people talk about stuff they're interested in, you could sit there and talk for an hour. And it's hard when it's virtual, but for instance, if you go up to somebody maybe at a virtual meetup, or even hopefully when we can do in-person things, and you notice maybe a shirt they're wearing, or people always use sports as like an example of like a sports team that they're wearing on their shirt or something, to ask about that. Don't necessarily feel like you have to jump straight into the deep end with, hi, I'm a software development professional. I'd like to see if you could give me a job. Build that connection often with unrelated things. One of the advices a professor gave to me when interviewing, she was like, spend 2 minutes talking everything but business. And I think that's kind of a valuable tactic. 2 minutes talking about the sports team on their shirt, or the pin on their lapel, or something. And then when that 2 minutes is over, you say, oh, that's great. I also know you do X, Y, Z. Like, would you be interested in have a conversation with me about that? Great question, Dana.
Yeah, that's great. One of the students, Ariel, said that's super helpful because she's someone who has social anxiety, and I know that she's not the only one. Sometimes it's really hard to just approach people.
Yeah, and I would actually argue that I started with the same sort of fear about that. A big part of this is like, you're not going to know until you do start trying, and I think I would caution with that, because obviously that's not fit for everybody. But start small. Start with your cold email where it's kind of low impact, and build up from there. Exactly, Laura. It's a skill. It takes practice. That's a fantastic way to put it. A very important part of this.
And one other thing I'll add to, and then any other questions in the minute or two we have left. But the worst people can say is no. So if they don't answer your email, they don't answer your email, right? You can try again. Like, it's so cliche, but like you have nothing to lose when it comes to those kind of things. So,
yep.
Awesome. Any other questions, folks?
Yes.
Go for it.
I just typed in a chat there, but this was really reaffirming. Once in my career, organizational skills in my calendar was packed back to back, some things overlapping. But starting a new career, I feel insecure as I feel out of date. When I was an undergrad, that was years ago, and it seems like there's so much new in the industry that I feel like I need to catch up. So the word networking seems intimidating.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, actually, and it's just something, honestly, I think we're all akin to, in the just because I've worked here, it's like a word. Frankly, it's a fancy way of saying you're getting to know people. That's the reality of it, right? I would argue that I came here as a virtue of networking. I met Jesse at a Syracuse, tech meetup when we were super young. When I was super young. I don't think I talked to him for a year. Then I saw him at another event, which I was actually working as a part of a different job. And we sort of connected. So yeah, Laura, that's a fantastic way to say that, relationshiping. You're just building a relationship with people. And often it's like I said, it's really not to do with the fact you're a software development professional. I think, Jesse and I had exchanged a few emails, but I recognized him for his role at Hack Upstate. I didn't recognize him for the fact that he coded some crazy program that I was like, wow, that's a great program. I don't know. So, that's important. Building those community relationships is very important. And Corey, another piece of advice I would give you is spend time with things that you're confused about. Even if it's just like, I used to just sit through Product Hunt and like scroll endlessly. That website is a pit of new information. Same thing with websites like DevPost for hackathons, or even LinkedIn. Just kind of sitting and being like, oh, this is like a new word I don't necessarily recognize. This is a new concept I don't necessarily recognize. You don't have to know everything about it, but just like, oh, okay, I know that a neural network is generally this in one sentence. And I'm sure that word probably means nothing to you guys, but that's just an example. Yeah, that's a great question. And again, I would also recommend try it out on me. I don't bite, and I've like to think that I've seen you guys kind of go through the process cohort 1. So I'm definitely open to talking with any of you about that.
Okay, everyone, we are at the end of the talk. Well, thank you so much coming in and talking with the students. Jesse, I will let you have the last word, but first, 1, 2, 3, let's go. Everybody throw up a reaction for Will, our first guest speaker.
That's awesome. That's great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys so much for having me. It was a pleasure. Good luck with everything. It's going to be, you know, a long road, but it's going to be so worth it. And I'm sure I will see all of you again. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Will. Appreciate you taking the time.
Have a great night, everybody. Thanks.
All right.
Bye, Will.
Dale. All right. Before I hand it over to Karin and Caitlin for tonight, I just want to go through a couple of quick announcements. I just put it in the Zoom chat, and I'm going to also put it in the Slack channel as well, just so we have it in both places. I'm going to try to get through these pretty quickly, but you know, please, questions, thoughts, feedback, put those in the chat, and we'll do our best to answer them all. So I'm actually going to go ahead and share my screen too, just for the recording, so that this will be for reference for everyone if you want to view this afterwards. Can everyone see my screen, hopefully?
Yes,
All right.
I can see it.
Perfect. All right, so I'm going to go through 4 things really quick here, what I'm highlighting. So, and shout out to Max, and Max, feel free to chime in if you're there, who has helped with these items here I'm going to be reviewing. And just for context for everyone, all the students, the instructors and the teaching assistants we meet once a week just to discuss feedback that we have, you know, identified through the program, and it's been really instrumental, particularly from your weekly feedback surveys. So, you know, those feedback surveys you submit, we read them, and we use them, you know, week over week to iterate upon really everything that we're doing. So first and foremost, just want to really quickly talk about sort of the new grading rubric moving forward. And I have links for all these that you can access yourself. Feel free to follow along. First and foremost, for homeworks. So the new system here, just for grading and whatnot, and I know there's been some pain points with it.
We need you to blow your screen up a little bit. We have a request.
I am very bad at doing that. So let me blow this up. Is that better? Everyone see that? Okay. So rubric, really simple. New point values. You know, instead of the 0 to 100, it's going to be 1 or 0. So 1 submitted meets expectations. 0 either not submitted or doesn't meet the expectations of that given assignment, whether it be the homeworks, quizzes, project, etc. Typically, for on an average basis, and we've let our instructors know this as well. But homework should take anywhere between 15 and 30 minutes per night if there is homework and or prep work. And then homeworks that are over the weekends, approximately an hour to complete. Regarding due dates, they'll all be due sort of tentatively Sunday at midnight, unless they're noted. There are like some things like internally that'll kind of happen to the program that might change. But assume Sunday 11 at midnight for due dates for everything. Try not to miss assignments. Assignments are, you know, a way to kind of reinforce that learning that that you're doing through the program. And kind of segue to that, why do we have grades at all, right? We're more concerned that you're actually understanding the material that you're learning, right? We're less concerned, you know, if you miss a homework. Like obviously, you know, do your best to get all the homeworks in. But we really want to see you, you know, walk away from class and understanding it. And if you don't, then ask questions. So just really quick, just for kind of the grading policy and sort of what that'll look like moving forward. With that, I'll pause. If anyone has any questions, you can throw them in the chat. And Max, feel free to chime in, or instructors if you have anything as well. But I'll pause there real quick if anyone has any questions on the sort of new policy for homeworks and projects and whatnot. Any questions on that?
Hey, Jesse, I have a quick question.
Yep.
This is very important that we do all this, and it means a lot, but especially in the beginning, if you find, you know, you're struggling systems issues or whatever, and things are kind of getting overwhelming and you're not getting them in on time or whatever. I know that's important, but I need to know that I'm not a sinking ship if it's kind of like that right now. And that the main thing is if I'm showing I'm learning and I can produce a capstone, that I'm okay.
Yeah. So with that, you know, totally understood, right? So, you know, these like the 1 or 0, right? And we're going to have another system as well, just for context, right? And we still haven't figured out the like overall details, but we'll have like a weekly basically feedback survey that all instructors will complete. And basically, be an indicator to you, Carolyn, and all the other students as well, obviously. But, one being, below expectations, two, meaning that you're meeting expectations, and three, exceeding expectations. So we're still figuring out the details for that. But week over week, like you'll have basically a pulse where the instructors think they're at for the program, just overall. And I'll get into the capstone stuff in just a minute, but hopefully that'll help, Carolyn. Does that help sort of with that?
I think it's a discussion I kind of have to have with you all, like on the side.
Yep.
But last night at like 2 a.m, I was still trying to do this stuff. And I was at the point where I was like, I can't do this. It's not going to be a good thing. And it's like, I don't want to say that. I want to stay with it.
Yep.
But we can have that conversation. I don't want to be, a slacker and not doing stuff. I really want to do this. But at the same time, you have to think about what you can do and how you are doing it. And I just didn't know how critical some of these things are in the big picture, I guess, is my main question. So thank you.
Yeah. So anytime, anyone has, questions, thoughts, feedback, it's totally normal to kind of like freak out at certain points in the program, right? Like everyone kind of hits a different ceiling. If you ever have questions, thoughts, feedback, like don't hesitate to reach out to myself, Dana, the instructors, whatever we can do, right? We're all here to support all of you, and our goal is to get you, graduated and with jobs with local employers, right? So anytime you're feeling overwhelmed, don't hesitate to reach out. And Jason Scarf, who obviously, you're all aware of as well, for the Student Success Rep, he's here to help you as well, with any of those external problems that you're facing. So, goes for everyone. Don't hesitate to reach out, if there's problems and there's things that roadblocks you're running into.
We have a couple of hands raised, Ariel and Corey. Oh, sorry, Max, go ahead.
Just before we roll on, I know that one of the points in cohort 1 that we wrestled with was students were feeling like they were behind or they were, not doing well. And it ended up that the instructors thought they were doing fine and we just were throwing a lot at you guys. So that system that Jesse mentioned, we're definitely still under development, but the idea behind that is that the instructor has the opportunity to provide you guys direct feedback. So even if you feel like you're falling behind, that is a little reassurance, hopefully, that the instructor can provide you of, hey, you're actually probably doing better and you're actually keeping up more than you may know. But it's also a conversation starter. So when you get that weekly feedback from the instructor, it's an opportunity to open the conversation up and say, hey, I was struggling with this homework assignment, or, this is where I feel like I'm falling behind. And that's kind of an opening the lines of communication there. So we'll have more details coming on that shortly. But it's going to be along the same lines of the homework grading, where the homework is more of this 1 or 0, like, hey, good job on this, or hey, this isn't up to our standards. Here are some places you could improve on it. And then we'll also be carrying that system into the feedback for the weekly touch point as well.
Okay, and as far as those of you who have your hands raised, we'll go in this order: Ariel, Corey, and then LaTanya.
Hi. So, for example, like yesterday, I submitted my CSS thing and then kept working on it because I knew I was so close. Is that something, if the submission time is, Sunday at 11:59 and you're on it at 2 and you figure it out, are you able to submit it after, because it would it change the grading at all? Or is it not worth it? Just hold on to it?
Yeah, good question. So, we're not going to be very strict about that. Like, do your best to get that Sunday at midnight, right? But if you submit a lot after, even if you do like Monday, right? Like, the only thing we can't guarantee is you'll get feedback on that, just because it is late, right? But submit to us whatever you have. Like, show whatever progress you're able to get. And if you want to go back and note that, hey, I have a resubmission here. That'll be up to the instructors to, decide if they're going to provide that additional feedback. Most of them I anticipate will, but if you submit after that period, you may not get that feedback, basically. Does that make sense, Ariel?
Yeah, no, that was what I was wondering. I didn't know if there was a way to do it after, or if you should just wait and say, hey, I did understand the concept. this is what I've worked on and see if they have time to look at it. That's perfect. Thank you.
Cool. Perfect.
Okay, next, Corey, your question.
Oh, I'm not muted. Hi, first I want to say thank you to the team. You know, this is a great opportunity, and I want to soak as much as I can out of it. I was on the YouTube channel last night, and I was, catching up on some of the lecture, but I couldn't see the chat where all the notes that, that the co-teacher is doing. And I don't know if that's located somewhere else or in Slack or whatever, but, I just wanted to ask that question. And then, when I went into Google Classroom to try to see, where thank you for this syllabus here. It kind of helps me focus. I knew that I did the homework at the tail end of last week to download all the software, but in the upper right-hand corner, I couldn't see, it said, I don't know if it said not submitted or something like that. And I got a little worried because I'm trying to push forward the right way. So how can I check my progress myself the best way? Okay, so there's a couple questions.
Yeah,
Can I
so-
just speak to the notes in the chat really
Yeah, go
quick?
ahead.
So
Mhm.
first of all, Corey, we did talk about that right now until we can review that because it's so new. The chat is not currently it's not currently available to you from the resource that we have until we kind of scrub through that. And so that's something that we're working on. The notes that you see me take in the chat, they're more so a courtesy, not something for you to really rely on for studying. What they do more so is I put them in there keywords or definitions to create a timestamp to go along with the video. When you are in class, you actually have the ability to download the chat notes yourself. So yeah, so when you're not in class, you don't have that ability. But what I can do is I'll talk to Jesse, and for what you have missed, what we'll do is we'll work on getting something to you sooner rather than later. But really, for the most part, it is creating what I would say would be timestamps that you can use if you're looking for specific things in the video so that you can get to those areas
Right.
faster. And they do
They're
have some
really
great
good.
resources
That's
there
why I
also.
was interested.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you. But
Yeah,
just know
that's
that
why
I'm
I
just
was
one
like,
TA
I've
that
missed.
does those. I'm not saying, so I'm not saying that you can expect all the TAs to do that. I'm going to be talking to TAs tonight. I'm not sure what verbiage they're going to be putting in there, but that is the purpose. And I tend to do a little bit extra because that's just what I do. But the purpose
Yeah,
is to put keywords in there along the way to help create timestamps that can go along with the video. But you really are responsible for your own notes. And when you miss a class, you're going to have to watch the videos. That's why they're there.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Perfect.
Go ahead, Jesse.
Yep. And then the second part of your question, Corey, I'm sorry. It was regarding, if you can repeat it one more time. I'm sorry. I lost the second part of your question.
Oh, I was just, when I go, excuse me, my cologne is making me sneeze. When I tried to go into Google Classroom, and I tracked, the homeworks that I was doing, there's a tracker in the upper right-hand corner, and I thought I submitted it, on time. And I was just checking, making sure that whatever work that I did was done accurately in the right way. It said not submitted, and I know I submitted that one, and I was just confused by that tracker in the upper right-hand corner of the page where it said unsubmitted, and I thought I recalled that I did submit.
So so in Google Classroom, and this is like one of the annoying things about Classroom, I don't know if I'm gonna have a good way to replicate it on my end just because I have like an instructor view, but when you have an actual assignment, like there should typically be like a way, I'm not gonna be able to do it unfortunately to show you guys, but in the assignment, there should be a way to say like turn in I don't have the user interface, but there should be like once you complete whatever that assignment is, most of the time it's like some form or some reading, right? There should be a button somewhere on here, either in the assignment itself or somewhere in this view that says like
Yeah.
turn in. And I unfortunately don't have a good way to show that, but that's one of the annoying things about Google Classroom is whenever you kind of like complete whatever assignment that is, you have to also say turn in. So you should have something kind of in this UI view.
Yeah, I saw that button to hit it, and I thought I did, and I just said, you know, you know, trying to be meticulous and on pace with the work that I do submit. But you know, it was the downloaders where we downloaded all the software, that tracker list, and I didn't know if I was misreading it, you know, and making sure that I thought I recall hitting it, and I didn't know if it was.
Yeah. So what we can do, Corey, and for everyone else too, is we can like create like I think we might have already had one, just like create like a student test account, and then provide, you know, documentation on ensuring that your assignments are actually being turned in. So we can take that away on our ends, provide like a little, you know, 1 or 2 pager, just ensuring that your stuff is turned in and that you're not missing anything. Typically, you know, if you've submitted and done whatever the requirement says, most of the time it's just making sure you also hit the turn in button. It is annoying. It's just one of the pain points of Google Classroom right now, unfortunately. So we can take that away, Corey, and for everyone else too, and hopefully that'll provide some visibility on what you should be doing for turning in assignments.
Great, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right, Latonya, you had a question?
I did, yeah, 2 quick questions. And I know we talked about this before in you asking questions in Slack. Should we be mentioning a specific person or just stating a question? I know I've done it where I just stated a question out to all the instructors because I wasn't sure who was the best person to answer it. And I just wasn't sure. I didn't want it to get, you know, just stuck to one person if somebody else could answer it. My other question is, you mentioned that the homework over the weekend would take us about an hour. I'm just, as a way to just kind of gauge where things are, did I hear you correctly on that? It should take about, like when we did those 3 pages, that should have been an hour. And anything like for the week, you said it would be like 15 minutes or so. Is that including like the resources? I just want a better gauge on.
Yeah, absolutely. So first thing, just regarding for Slack questions, typically your best bet, you know, will be to ask the instructor for that given week, but you can certainly pose it as like a general question, right? So, you know, example, Max teaching the first week, he'll probably be able to help out with many of the first week questions. Karin the second week, she'll be able to help out with some of the second week questions. But that being said, like, you know, all of our instructors are in that students channel. So they'll chime in, you know, and help to answer those questions, provide thoughts and feedback. But your best bet, you know, for specific, you know, questions regarding content that was delivered will be for those instructors or TAs for that given week. So that's sort of the first question. Then secondly, yeah, just regarding homework. Now, obviously, you know, these past weeks that might not have been completely accurate, just, you know, with the time commitments, but yeah, the ideally what we like to do, you know, is have that 15-30 minutes of homework on a daily basis, and then about an hour on the weekend. So that 2 to 3 page website or whatever, you know, the good average for that will be an hour. Now, that being said, obviously all this, the researching, you know, looking up examples, stuff like that, you might find it taking more than an hour, but we're going to try to kind of move forward with that kind of hour-long commitment, you know, for all the instructors, just so that you get a good sense of like how long you think something should be taking you. And at the same time, if instructors, you know, if it's a really big assignment, then we'll know, hey, you know, this might take a little longer, but we're really going to try to stick to like an hour, you know, for weekend assignments. Does that help with that? Hopefully, Latonya?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay, perfect.
Can I just say that it always took me longer to complete assignments, had absolutely nothing to do with the instructor, everything to do with me, because, you know, some of us just try to be perfectionists when we start digging in, and then we go to one link and we want to read up on something about that link and then all over the place, and then we have to reel ourselves back in. So Yeah, that 1 hour time frame, it's give or take. Take it with a grain of salt is what I
That's
say.
me.
Any other, Carolyn, you have another question? Hey, you're talking to me, Carolyn.
Yeah, I actually kind of forgot what it was now, but it does take me longer than it did when I was younger and healthier. I am behind things, but what I did, and I submitted stuff today, and I'll be adding comments. But when I was doing it and I stopped thinking about all the other parts, like, oh my God, I'm going to bomb out of this program and they're going to kick me out because I can't do this or whatever, I really enjoy it. It's just the learning curve hasn't so much been some of the material as it's been the same one everyone's having or had, you know, trying to download software, you know, things like that. And it's like, I'm just saying, okay, I can do this. I can do this. And I'm kind of proud of myself because years ago I would have like totally fallen apart. But I'm still panicking because it's like, I really want to do this and I love it, but I don't know if my sharing helps anyone else or anyone else is in the same boat or it's just me. But I'm handing stuff in, but it's late now, which totally goes against my perfectionist students norm, but things aren't norm anymore. So anyway, but I don't really remember what my question was, but that's just a comment.
No,
I know one thing too, and I see this, I'm learning a lot of lessons the hard way, but I'm learning them. This whole wireframe thing, just the mock-up of it, I really wanted to get so I could do that in InVision. Okay, losing the whole point of the exercise. I spent the entire weekend trying to get that just right, and I finally did. But then I had all this other stuff to do that I hadn't done yet. So it's like I'm learning about that. I'm learning from that, which is important. So I just thought I'd share that too, if it helps anybody else.
Yes, so thank you for sharing, and I would encourage all of you, you know, I already see a bunch of folks sharing in the chat, so thank you for doing that. You know, I totally get the perfectionist thing, but, you know, at this point, you know, don't aim for that, right? Like aim to get something over the fence, you know, for thoughts and feedback and to share with your instructors and the students. That's what I would recommend personally. And, you know, and I think this has been said before by either Karin or Caitlin, perhaps, but everyone has different levels, right? Like people have to dedicate different amounts of time for it. And it becomes really like challenging and really easy to kind of start to compare yourself for everyone. Try your best not to do that. And as long as you're still waking up and saying, this is awesome, I love this, like I can't wait to solve my next problem, like motivation is often half the battle, you know, when it comes to becoming a software developer. So even if you're struggling, I mean, this program's hard. If you guys haven't realized by now, this is a really challenging program, but we're here to help, right? So as long as you're still like, look, I want to get out of bed and do this and I'll figure it out. We're here to help you figure that out. So, you know, if you're struggling, that's okay. It's expected, honestly. This is a very challenging program. So hopefully that helps just for anyone with some more words of advice. Any other questions, folks?
And you may be amazed when you turn in your homework where you go, oh, I only got 30% of this done, and you'll still get a completed on it, right? And that's just a chance for us as instructors to have that feedback from you guys and see you making that progress, right? So while a fully complete assignment is definitely what we're aiming for, you know, when we start looking at the students submitting those assignments and going, oh, wow, everyone is struggling with that, you know, that gives us the feedback that we need as instructors to say we need to spend more time on this next week, or we need to provide additional resources or whatever it may be. So the homework is not meant to be a stress inducer. It is meant to be a door opener for the communication.
Yep, absolutely. Any other questions or thoughts? I know we have a bunch of hands raised, so just feel free to take yourself off mute.
This may be something up. This is Latonia. I'm sorry for jumping in like that. And this may be a quirky question, but when I was doing my commits, I was writing notes to myself, like, you really need to study more on formatting, you know, like, you know, like I would say like final draft, study, blah, blah, blah. Is that like a no, like you don't do that? Just what kind of general rules are there around the language that goes in? I mean, I know this is the learning process, but I'm just curious in general.
Can you save that question to the end of class and we can tackle it then?
Yeah, I'll try to remember. Thanks.
Thank you.
That's a good question. Any other questions, folks, just regarding like grading? I'll plan to get to stipends today, and then I know we're already at 6:28, so I want to make sure you guys get enough time for class and start the start of the show here. Any other questions just regarding specifically around homeworks, late policy, anything discussed in this document in particular that can help to answer?
I have a,
Thank you.
I just have two quick questions. One is, when should we expect feedback on the assignments that we submit on Sunday? And the second one is, if you had sort of figured out how we were going to go through with the days, like is today day 5 of module 2, or is this day 1 of week 3?
Yeah, so regarding feedback, we'll try so if you submit something on Sunday, instructors will try their best to get it by the end of that same week, just, you know, with everything else going on regarding curriculum and whatnot. So submit it on Sunday, try to expect it by the end of that same week. And that's regarding your second question. Typically, like we'll try to just do like the module number, week number. It gets kind of confusing when you start to drill into like what actual day of the program it is. So just assume like the module and week. If it's helpful to provide that full breakdown for like the actual day number as well, we can do that. And I know like some stuff in classroom might be a little different, but don't be as concerned about the actual day numbers. And when we upload to YouTube, like we're just doing the actual like date of the class, not like the day number. But if it's helpful, we can kind of provide some formality around there, like a standard. But I wouldn't get too caught up on that.
Well, it was suggested last week when we were saving things in certain files that to label them that way to show, because we're going to have, you know, files possibly saved every single day, you know, for a module.
Yeah, basically where we were at was we didn't know if today is week 3, day 1, or if today is module 2, day 5.
Right. Yeah, that gets really confusing really quickly. I would say, that's a good. I'll defer to the instructors and the TAs for that, just on whatever they think is best for kind of how we want to handle that. Personally, I would probably do, you know, if it's like a folder breakdown, like you might have like your module number / your week number / your day number, and then like that day would be like 1 through 4, like for each week, right? So say if it's week 2, it'd be another folder, you know, day 1 through 4 or whatever. I think once you start trying to figure out all those specific day numbers, it'll get kind of confusing, but I'll defer to instructors on what they think is best. But that's what I would do. Basically just have like multiple folders, like each for a given module, week and day. That makes sense.
Completely on board with that.
I was playing around with it a little. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear.
Okay. I was playing around with it a little bit this weekend, and what I did was I started labeling them by the date. So I did like module 2, day 1 with whatever the date was, 3/22, module 2, day 2, 3/23. So I knew what the actual date was that we were on there, but everybody is different. So
I like that.
Yeah. So I guess with that, what I would say is like whatever helps you the best, be organized, do it. I like that approach a lot, Karin, where it's like the actual specific date of class, and then you can reference that pretty quickly too. But I would defer again to instructors and you know, students if you think it's easier to parse it through the given date or the given, you know, day number, whatever you think is best.
I would say if we follow that format, just based on my experience from last cohort, if we follow that format for assignments, it's also easy to align that information with a video that a student may need to go back to for support. So I would actually strongly encourage that we follow through with that, because then everything lines up as far as the support that they would need outside of being in the class.
So TLDR here, the too long didn't read version, which is one of my favorite terms, is we'll start as instructors putting dates of the class on our files, and then we'll also tag them with the module number, the week number, and then the day number. And day numbers will always be 1 through 4, and then the week number will be whatever week of that specific module, not the week overall in the program.
Yep, perfect. All right, awesome. Any other questions, folks? Again, I know I just said I'm running way over. Any other questions I can answer? You can save the technical stuff for Karin, Caitlin, and Max. But all right, so I know I'm already way over time. So really, I'm going to talk about the capstone stuff tomorrow, just for sake of time. But student stipends, I know there was some questions on this last week. So there's links on how you can use the stipends and how to submit it to ultimately be reimbursed for your purchases. So this week you'll be working with getting a domain name. So this would be a good opportunity to kind of submit this as a reimbursement for the first time. So this document here, I will blow it up a little bit, but this regards the stipends, how it works, what you can use it for, all that good stuff. This is all in writing. I'm not going to review this document, word for word, but this should ultimately be covered. Domains is a great one to start with. Like I said, unforeseeable costs, anything that is a financial impediment or hurdle. If something isn't on this list, please reach out to us and we will figure out, if it's an eligible purchase or not, or reimbursement rather. So feel free to review this for what you can and can't use a stipend for. And then for actually getting reimbursed for these, 3-step process. One is we have a sort of like an ACH form. That's how we'll be paying everyone to reimburse them. Email that form over to me at the email listed there. And then you'll complete this form for the actual reimbursement. So you'll select your name, you'll provide the service under the category, what it is, the description, links if it's relevant, how much it costs, and how many of it. And then we also do ask for a receipt of your purchase so that we can verify it and validate it. Whether it's a physical purchase, like a receipt, take a picture of it. If it's like an Amazon purchase or whatever, then just take a screen capture of the invoice or whatever they provide for you. So that's how to submit stipends, and I went over that really quickly, but it's all here. Any questions I can help to answer regarding student stipends?
I think Alina had a question for you. I saw her hand raised. Alina, did you have a question?
Yeah, I actually did have a question, but I mean, I can talk to somebody else about it. Either doesn't matter. I was actually looking into purchasing another monitor for the program just because it's easier with 2 monitors. And I don't actually see that under there. I'm not sure if that falls under computer accessories or not.
Yeah.
So that was my question.
Yeah, so typically we put computer accessories under ineligible only because like those purchases can sometimes be quite sizable. Like, if a monitor is $200, $300, that's an investment, yeah, right? But then you may not have it for the rest of the duration, right? So for things that, say for example, though, like, that you won't need anything else under like what it can be used for, we'll work with folks on a case-by-case basis for those. So if you're ever unsure or if like a discrepancy here, please just reach out to us and we will work with all the students on a case-by-case basis for what they think is best. But that would be my only kind of reservation with that is, depending on the monitor and the cost, then you may not have it for the rest of the program. So just something to consider for everyone as well. But yeah, feel free to shoot us a note, Alina, and we can figure that out.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, so I see questions in the chat as well. So I see folks with mouses, adapters, and whatnot. Let us get some thought into that, just because everything's kind of in this virtual setting now. So let me circle back on this for the computer accessories. But again, I just want to reiterate what I just said there. If you're purchasing these things and they're more sizable investments, they are an investment, right? Like a monitor is going to go a super long way, but just consider that you won't have these dollars for other things listed above. So let me circle back on the computer accessory stuff, just because I'm seeing a lot of stuff in the chat about it. So let me circle back on that one, folks. Any other questions regarding the student stipends and guidelines and submitting and so on? All right, so with that, the capstone stuff, I've said this 3 times now, but I'm chewing away at a time. What I would like for everyone to do for homework is to review the capstone requirements. I put it as a assignment in the Google Classroom as well. It's a sizable document, but this is everything related to the capstone project. So when you have a moment before class tomorrow, please review this. And then what I'd like to do is just have a discussion on it. I can run through it again, high level. But please review this and then come to class with questions, thoughts, and feedback. I just don't want to eat into any more class time. So again, a lot here, but this all covers how to choose your idea, what you should be building, what you can build, a little schedule, what you need to actually submit to us, and then ultimately details on your final presentation. So again, it's a lot. I expect you all have questions. It's a lot to break down, but for homework before class tomorrow, if you could all just review this, jot down any questions you have, and we'll be happy to discuss that next time. I just don't want to eat any more class time. So does that sound good to everyone? If you review this document and then tomorrow we can discuss it.
And
Cool.
feel free to send your questions in Slack also.
Yep. And I know folks have been asking about it, and like we didn't bring this up for the first 2 weeks because there's just so much happening as to the kickoff. So so hopefully this resource will help just with those requirements and what the capstone project actually is and what you need to do for it. So I look forward to hearing your questions at the start of next class. And the only last thing I will say really quick, just regarding resources and content management, we had a discussion on this with the instructors last week as well. We recognize that there are a lot of different resources in a lot of different places. So what we've asked our instructors for some feedback, and we're going to try to centralize on like 1 or 2 main systems moving forward for the resources because they're in so many different places. So by the end of this week, we'll have a decision on kind of where those will live moving forward after we get some thoughts and feedback from the instructors. I just want to note that I know that there's a ton of content, a ton of stuff living in a ton of different places. So we're going to hope to have some kind of solution for you by Thursday on that. So, all right. Any other questions before I hand it over to Karin here? All right. Well, if you have anything at all, hit me up in Slack. And thank you everyone for your thoughts and feedback and discussion. And I'll hand it over to you, Karin.
All righty. That was a lot of information in a short amount of time, right? So everybody's head going, oh my God, what was all of that? I'm never going to remember it all.
If only we recorded these.
Actually, that was one of the things that somebody had mentioned, that how long it's taking for the YouTube videos. I know, because are they live streaming anymore? There was an issue with that. Did we get that fixed? Are we going to get that fixed?
So I don't have any updates on the live stream. Last time I saw any posts about that, we weren't able to live stream. The YouTube videos are usually up by the next morning. What we can do in the meantime until we get them up on YouTube, for folks that do want to review the same night, we can put up the direct link to Zoom, and Max actually did that one day. So thank you for that, Max. What happens is after the video goes in, it has to go through a processing in Zoom, which sometimes can take just as long as the class, believe it or not, which runs me into about 11 or 12 o'clock at night. And if I'm not going to stay awake that late, then I have to get to it first thing in the morning before I start another job. So, but usually what happens is they're up by 9 o'clock in the morning the next day. One day I ran into a huge glitch with my computer. So, and that is the day that I am aware that there were some complaints. I'm sorry. I ran into errors, people. So, yeah, that was that. But and I have sent this out in Slack that that you all can expect that to be up by 9 in the morning. Are there folks that are looking for the video to be up right after class?
Yes, that's why I'm asking that question, because they don't have a chance to, they don't have time and they want to be able to review the information.
Okay, we'll make it happen. When I actually put the note in Slack that it would be up by 9 in the morning, I didn't have any naysayers at that time. So I didn't know that that was not okay. So
Yeah,
now that I know, we
I
can
just
put
found
them up
out,
and yeah,
this, it was over the weekend, and one of the students, you know, they were
absolutely.
like, I want to try and watch them after, right afterwards, because that's the only time, because they, between
Yeah.
work and other things, that was the only time they have to review the video.
That is absolutely not a problem. I was that student last semester, waiting on pins and needles for Will to put the videos up.
We're gonna
So, not
have
a problem.
some technical limitations on that, because even the Zoom link that I shared, we still have to
Mhm.
wait for the video to finish
Yeah.
processing, Dana.
Yep, which can
So
take 3 hours sometimes.
yeah, so let's take that offline. There's a
Okay.
solution that I'm thinking of where the instructor can actually record locally, but we don't
Oh,
need to bore all
nice.
the students with that. So I'll ping you
Okay.
in Slack so Karen can get on with class.
Thank you. That's great, because I know that the system I'm using doesn't have the resources to do that. Thank you.
Okay, so let's do our usual stand up, right? Start with a stand up. It was a long weekend.
I just want to answer one quick question. Latanya said, can we record on our own machines? If you have the software on your machine and you want to try it, feel free. Yep, there's nothing stopping you from doing that. Okay, go ahead, Karen. Sorry about that.
Can the Macs do that?
Yeah, so there's a
Record on-
record button
Mhm.
in Zoom. And so if you just click that button, it will start recording it.
shoot.
The only concern on that is that it's a 3-hour recording. And so those 3-hour recordings end up being like 4 or 5 gigs each. And there's a limited amount of space on the computer. So we'll put our heads together on the instructor and Hack Upstate side, and then circle back with you guys on that.
Mhm.
Great
It also
questions.
tells you to get permission from the Zoom host, because I just clicked on that to see what would happen. But
We'll work on it and get
Yeah.
back together with you
I don't
guys.
know that I want to dump that much on the computer, but anyway, yep. Exploring.
Yeah, so until we get back to you, and we apologize, we'll try to get to it sooner rather than later. The expectation is still, because of what we're experiencing, by the next morning. But we'll try to get it to you as soon as we can. Try to cut down that time. Thank you, Max.
Okay, so I think what we'll do is we'll take a break a little early, because that was a lot of information that you guys just went through, and I don't want to start getting into something and then have to take a break. So we'll meet back here at 7 o'clock. Is that good for everybody? Take a 15-minute break, come back, and then we'll jump right in and go right through.
Okay,
Good.
wonderful. Latanya, while everyone's on break, Latanya, I do see your question. Did Max answer your question about being able to record directly to your Mac, that you have to be careful because recording directly to your own computer is going to eat up a lot of your system resources?
Oh, I think I missed that. I heard
Okay,
saying something about, I heard someone saying something about like permissions and all that. So I think I maybe
right.
missed it.
That's the
Okay, thank
reason
you.
why that's the reason why the video was so late one day last week, because my system was running out of resources and I had to start moving stuff over to the cloud and deleting stuff. And then I would go back to the video, and it was already processed in Zoom, and I was trying to do the download, and things weren't even downloading to my computer. It was just crazy. Yeah.
I wonder
I was really
how, because I set
frustrated.
my Macs up together. I wonder, since I'm working on one, I wonder if I could have it recording on the other one.
You could, once again, it really just depends on what your system resources are.
Yeah.
Like you have the eyes on that side of the coin. Knowing that it's going to take a few gigs, you have to know what the limitations of your machine are so that you don't run into the problems that I did. I thought that I had deleted enough stuff and had enough stuff moved over to the cloud so that I wouldn't wouldn't experience that. And I kind of got caught up. No, not kind of. I did get caught up in my own bubble.
Is there, I just had a quick thought. Can I don't know the price of flash drives, but is there, I know that we have stipends. Is that an opportunity to provide a solution to this? I don't know how much.
So getting your hands on an external drive where it concerns stipend, you'll have to ping Jesse on that. If
Yeah.
that is if
Guys,
that
I would
you're
cap the
looking
whole
into,
conversation.
yeah.
There are probably things that we can do on our side before we dump
Cool.
the responsibility on you.
Right.
Because videos are such an important part of the class, I'm going to
Right.
suggest that we just take a time out on the conversation and we'll
Right.
get back to you with some solutions.
Right. And we're, we're not dumping this on you per se. Just answering the question because you're curious. But once again, to go back to Max's point, there are things that we can do on our end to move past the glitch and, just to try to meet you all where you're at. You want to see the video the same night, a little sooner after class. That's just an issue that we need to work through.
Cool. Okay.
And we'll get to it sooner rather than later.
I just have a logistical, not to add to the discussion, but if you did want to record on a different computer, you'd have to be signed on twice, right?
No, you can just hit the record button, but the teacher needs to give permission for the recording, and that opens a can of worms. So,
So even if, okay, I was just wondering what Zoom allowed for, never mind, okay, forget it.
Yeah, moral of the
Yeah.
story, we don't want y'all to wonder anymore. It's
Just take it
because what it does is it presents more problems at this point than it does answers. Either it's going to put you in a situation where you're using up too much of your resources. The questions that you're asking would put, an expense on your stipend that the way that we're looking at it is you don't have to do that. If we're able to look at another solution and just keep whatever the solution is completely free for you so you can use the stipend for other stuff. Break time. Corey, I can't unraise your hand because I'm not TA. Caitlin, are you there?
I'm here. I don't feel great right now.
I'm sorry, you never answered my question. I was asking if you wanted me to TA because if I am going to TA for you, I would need co-host and I don't have that right now.
Oh, I answered you, but I couldn't figure out.
Oh, I'm sorry.
As the co-host, it's okay. I got lost.
Matt, I think that Karen would have to give me co-host. That's
Yeah,
why I was asking. Okay.
That's what I said, is that you'd have to ask Karen to do it because I can't do it for you.
All right then.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I'll probably hang out anyway, just as extra support. But if you want to continue your note taking and question answering role, go for it. I'm fine with that.
I just need to know which one of us is gonna lead. That's all, because I thought my name was
go
down,
ahead.
but it's yours. But okay, so I'll tell. Okay, so I'll ask Karen when she comes back to give me co-host, and then I'll just take over.
Yeah,
I'm sorry you're not feeling well.
It's okay. I just have a headache. I'm fine.
Okay. It's that time of year though, allergies.
It is.
Like when my sinuses start getting backed up.
My eyes are really itchy.
Yeah.
That's why I look like miserable, but I'm not. I'm just.
I'm always buying allergy pills, right? So I was in the store. No, I was headed to the store and I happened to open up the middle compartment in my car and I forgot that that's where I put the allergy pills, because I'll get behind the wheel, start driving, and all of a sudden something will happen to my eyes, like they'll start itching, watering and stuff. And I'm like, you know what? If I have the allergy pills in the car, I can just pop one in my mouth and everything will be fixed in a few minutes. Eye drops, everything. Is terrible.
Okay. Oh, thanks, Dominique.
So yeah, now I have a better insight as to why the videos weren't instantly up during cohort one. It seemed like Will was able to get the videos up fast. I'm gonna have to ask him. I don't know
Yeah,
if
he was
it's
able to get them up so quickly because we were live streaming them.
oh
So the
okay.
instructors before the beginning of class, they would click on a little more button and then hit live
Mhm.
stream and send it right to YouTube. But
Oh.
that worked for like 2 of our classes and then started
Mhm.
silently failing. So I'm documenting all of
Oh.
that in a message to you and Jesse right now, and we can
Okay.
offline working through that.
Okay. That clears up the mystery.
Hey folks, this is Latonia.
Hello.
Can I jump in real quick?
Go
It's
ahead.
not about video. So I have it. This is not a funny story, like at all. It's funny now, but so I was working on those 3 pages, and apparently I was not the only person that put all these hours in trying to get stuff to work. And then I went to go to sleep, and I was like, "You didn't change the style sheet file name." So I'm like passing out, and I'm like, "You have the wrong." So you're you're working in the HTML with a different. I'm sure it makes a difference, but I just thought I'd share my not so funny story because the details matter.
So I haven't looked at that assignment just because I'm TA and I didn't really have to. I'm sorry, but um Max or Karen, like I'm not familiar with the issue that she's talking about.
Yeah,
How problematic does it sound? Because I know with style sheets, it's really just a matter of linking them.
Yeah, Latonia, are you saying you just submitted the wrong file names, or are you saying it wasn't working because it was just not
They
the
were
right?
not linked. I went in, copy paste, forgot to change the style sheets file name to link it properly to the HTML file.
So yes, that is the pain that you feel. I've been developing for 15 years. I'm considered a senior developer. I was writing some code today and it just magically was working. And I pulled in my other senior developer and I'm like, this is working without me writing another 100 lines of code that I know I'm supposed to have to write. Why is this working? And we just couldn't figure it out. It's because my code was running in an infinite loop, and every second it was going to the server, pulling in more information and showing it, which is obviously a big no-no. Would have crashed the server if I ended up deploying it, because every user every second would have been asking the server for more information. It was just this, all because I forgot an opening square bracket and a closing square bracket. And so it is those moments where I was just looking at it and I'm like, there's voodoo happening here, but I don't know where. And when I found it, it was like, oh, thank God I let that bother me, because if I didn't let it bother me, I would have rolled out a huge bug that whenever a user would have hit that page, it would have shot our server usage up through the roof and caused all kinds of problems. So even at this level of experience, you catch those things, and they're little things, and if you let them bother you, it's kind of a good thing, so you can catch it more. But at a certain point, like the fact that it still bothers you can almost be a good thing.
Thank you for that.
Yes, it is entirely frustrating when the computer does exactly what you tell it to. And what you told it exactly to do is totally a bug. But you go, there's no one to blame but yourself. But at the same time, like, you've got to acknowledge the human brain and the computer brain don't work the same way. And that's why I'm a big proponent of saying you don't write code, you translate code.
Yeah.
Right? You have an idea of how it works in your brain, and you need to translate that into a way the computer understands. So if you don't have it all thought out in your brain, there's no way you're going to be able to translate on the fly and get it into the computer. And so that's why I actually wrote a blog post, and I'll put it in the chat, of no developer writes code. That's a common saying. I think developers get it in their head, they translate that in a way the computer can understand, and that's what they end up inputting.
LaTanya, we didn't hear you. You're on mute. I think you said something.
Yeah, I said, sounds good. I was talking to myself again. I was gonna put it in the chat.
So I found out something about my role as TA that I don't think sunk in. I was actually reading through the roles and responsibilities because we have the TA meeting tonight, and it said that the TA is supposed to be at office hours, and I had to laugh because I'm like, wait a minute, I haven't been to office hours. I have to apologize to the instructors. I'm like, I crash after Friday, but yeah, so I'm sorry. I'll be at office hours during my week from now on if needed. But I just, yeah, everything's just been moving so fast because, I offer my services in another role for careers in code. So yeah, that's something that just didn't compute. So Max, Karen, my apologies. I don't know if they heard me. Karen, can you hear me? Oh, okay.
Sorry, I've got two monitors, and I'm just
that's
in
okay.
multi-threading mode right now.
Oh, okay. Karen, you have to give me co-host. I'm taking over for Caitlin tonight. She wants me to take over for her. Thank you.
Hi, sorry, I know you guys are busy, but I had a quick question. So I tried to move, I can't see like the Zoom calls on the MacBook. So I tried to put the Zoom on my 19-inch and then, do the coding on the MacBook. This is gonna sound stupid. It won't let me turn the camera on. Is that like a permissions thing? Or
It could be, if you go to System Preferences and go to the Security and Privacy option, which is 3 rows down. I'm sorry, the computer the Zoom call is on is a Mac, right?
no, I have the Zoom on an HP and I have the Mac next to me to code on. I just cannot see anything on that Mac, even with it zoomed in, to the point I'm getting migraines.
Totally get it. On the Windows, I can't give you the exact instructions, but basically in settings or control panel, whatever they call it on Windows, there should be a privacy section. And in there, you probably have to give Zoom webcam access.
Okay, I just wanted to verify because I've never had an issue using it on this computer before, but it when I logged into this computer, it obviously booted me out of the Mac. So then it told me I couldn't. So I'll play around with it. And if I leave the call quick and come back, that's probably why I have to reset the camera. That's all.
No problem.
I was trying to remember where those settings are for Windows because that's what my work laptop is, but I don't know them off the top of my head.
Yeah, I've been having a lot of fun with permissions for video and audio. So the other job that I do, they use Teams. And so anytime I come over here to Zoom, I have to give it permission to use the microphone and the camera and stuff like that. Not all the time, but sometimes. I was also using an app called Hopin, And that's where all the problems start happening, is just very greedy with your video and audio. What time is break over, Karen?
We're done at 7, but I just want to make sure that
Okay.
everybody is back. There's a, I mean, I know Ariel doesn't have, I just want to make sure like everybody else is back. That
Okay. You're saying 7 o'clock or 7 minutes after 7?
no, 7 o'clock. I just
7
wanted to
o'clock,
make
okay.
sure that everybody was back.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, looks like pretty much everybody is back. Okay. So let's start with our stand-up like we always do. Do you guys have questions from last week that you need to have answered? Or that you'd like to go over?
If you have a question, take yourself off mute and ask your question.
Are there certain parts of CSS or the HTML that you're struggling with?
My struggle was just to like I got basic stuff done and then I just didn't know, like using Flex, like we did the Flexbox Froggy and I understood those terms as I was doing them, but then within the code and I'm just looking at it, I just struggled like where to start and how to know what to use where was really my main issue. And I kept Googling to try to find like a basic manual to like explain if you want it to look like this, do this. And I really couldn't find that. Even though I looked at like the Mozilla stuff, it just wasn't as direct as I wanted it to be.
It takes eventually that will come with more practice. And actually this week, probably Wednesday, we're just going to do a basic website page. We're not going to do the wireframe or anything. We're just going to lay out a basic page and just do the HTML and CSS. So it'll give you guys more practice.
Okay.
So hopefully that will help you figure that out. And sometimes until you get doing it all the time, it's trial and error. I actually was doing it today, trial and error. My boss wanted some weird design and I'm like, what am I going to have? Like, okay. So that's what I ended up doing. And I was like, okay, well, let me start with display flex, put them out, put space between space, and I was like, all right, so now I have this, but now, and they weren't like normal with our, so in our nav bar, it's, we have stuff in the center and on each sides, but this was, I had something on this side and then I had 2 more, but then I had others that were way over. So there was like space in between. It was really weird. I had to do all this weird CSS stuff to it. But we'll start with that. We'll lay out a basic website on Wednesday. So hopefully that'll help you guys with solidifying some more CSS and HTML. CSS can be tough when you're doing some of that.
Ariel has a question.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes.
I didn't unmute all the way. I was just wondering if there was a way to go over again the like the child div and stuff. Like I figured out doing my wireframe that the rows versus columns, like I could figure out what needed to go where, but I ended up making too many classes versus IDs. Is there a way we can maybe touch on that a little bit more, please?
Yeah. You're talking, are you struggling with the parent-child relationship?
Like, for example, doing, like, I could understand you have header, main, content container, footer, but like when it got to how to separate it into those rows and columns, like, for example, my thumbnails, I kept getting way over on the right-hand side of the screen. And when I moved them down, like the only way I did it was I kept making like child attributes, and that wasn't correct. Like I ended up with like way more complication than I needed to have. So I wasn't sure if we could kind of go over like when is it qualified that you need to make like a subsection or a child from the parent kind of thing?
That's actually a good question. And I probably don't, how do I want to answer this? I would say, I want to say that it depends on your layout. For you, in order to create a different section. I'm trying to think of like Syracuse.com, right? They break it into sections. There's like the main news section, and then they do a section for like sports. So maybe on Wednesday when we try to do all of that, we will actually try to break out a section and do that. I'm not sure if that answered your question or not, but we can definitely incorporate that on Wednesday when we do it, just a basic layout of a page, and we'll do a header and then the main content with the container, and then we'll do a section inside of that so that you can see that and lay it out.
No, that's perfect. Thank you. That's actually really helpful.
Okay.
I have a question about that. Karin, does that, I know that sometimes when you group certain things together and you put a section inside of a section, you need to be concerned with what everything else in the inside sections, what they're inheriting from the div that it might be inside of. And so is that the issue that's being run into, like what's inherited and how you can go about maybe customizing something so that it doesn't inherit what's on top of it, maybe just some of it, but not all of it when you want to move things around?
That's so you have if your div has a class, then whatever is down inside of it, you're going to give it an ID because the ID is going to overrule the class.
Okay, so it's okay. Yep. So you answered my question.
Oh, Carol, sorry.
Go ahead.
I just want to answer Carolyn. If you click on that blue tab right there, just go up and select everyone.
One thing I can recommend for going div crazy is look at your wireframe and kind of just draw boxes on your wireframe of what natural content section flows, right? So like when you look at your nav bar, you go, oh, well, the nav bar is very clearly a separate section of the web page, right? So that's going to be one div, and I'm going to draw a box around that. Okay, now let's look at our nav bar. We've got our logo on the left, we've got our links in the center, and we've got our search on the right. Those are going to be 3 separate divs because I need to be able to position them independently of each other. So you draw another box around those 3. Right? And then you go, oh, well, my logo is just one thing, so I don't need another div inside of there. My search is going to be its own thing, so I probably don't need sub divs in that. But oh, my links, I'm going to have 3 separate links. So there I'm going to do, 3 P tags or 3 span tags or 3 A tags or whatever you decide. And from there, you can naturally kind of figure out, okay, I'm nesting here, but I'm going to have my nav bar. I'm going to have 3 sub divs inside that nav bar. And then in my center section, I'm going to have 3 sub tags in there. So you can kind of figure out like what parts of these am I going to need to individually control, right? What am I going to be able to say my CSS, oh, I need you to go down here, or I need you to be right next to each other, or whatever it is. And from there, your natural div order will kind of fall out of that. And so you're going to see on Wednesday, Karin going through this project and just how naturally you can kind of figure out what you need sub divs for, what the parent, what the child becomes, all of that. The other thing I will say is that when Caitlin starts teaching Bootstrap, not next week, but the following week, Bootstrap kind of already has that figured out for you. So they're going to be giving you components and kind of telling you, hey, you have to have these child components. And if you have these child components, we'll figure out the styling for you. So a lot of that will become a little bit more natural. But on Wednesday, Karin will be going through an exercise and you'll kind of see the flow of her developer's mind of how she can figure out what needs child divs and what doesn't.
Actually, one of the things that I did when I first started out in the cohort and stuff was I put a border around everything. So if I had a header, I put a border around it, and I knew, and I gave them different colors so that I could see my border had, and so like the header had one color, my main content had a different color, and then the specific parts, they would all have a different color, so I would know. So like what Max is saying is it breaks it down and you're like, oh, okay, so this needs to be something separate for me in order to be able to control it to get it here. That helped me with it also in order to be able to figure out how to use the CSS with Flex.
That's a great idea. Thank you for sharing. This is Latonia. I'm sorry. The other question I had is knowing, like, I think for some of them, I was using a blocked tag that renders as a block when I needed it to be next to something. I'm sure I'm messing up how I'm wording this question, but like, is there a way for us to revisit, like using one tag is more appropriate than using another tag because of the fact that one of them will block, meaning it'll take that whole line, and other ones you'll have more flexibility on where they go on the page. Does that make sense?
He's basically asking Karin the difference between a div tag and a span tag.
Oh, okay. I don't think I used span tags too much, but we can definitely go over that on Wednesday too.
I think it may be helpful to go over like display inline versus display block versus display flex. I think if you go over those three properties, everything may kind of unlock after that. But that's a really great question, Latonia.
I think the one thing that we learned from Max and Cohort 1 is that as you learn, you'll figure out that there's more than one way to approach those more complex things. And what you do is you settle on a flow for yourself. Once you learn it, you'll eventually latch on to a certain way to do things. And it doesn't make it right or wrong. It just makes it the way that you do it. Unless your boss yells at you and says, no, we don't do that here. We do it this way, which can happen.
Does having extra stuff, if you have tags and stuff in there, like if you have a lot of divs and you don't necessarily need them all, does that weigh down your page? Does it affect your loading and all that kind of stuff?
Good question.
Well, I'm going to say it depends, because it'll also depend on what else you have going with that. But when it reads it, the web browser will read every single one of those first so that it knows. And then when we start adding, like when we get to what we're going to be talking about tonight, which is JavaScript, then that takes a play into it as well. So if you have a lot of that and you have a lot of things going on with your JavaScript, it will weigh it down. But that's why they're going to teach React, because it's a one page and they'll show you how to do it so that it doesn't weigh it down.
Yeah, I would agree with Karin. It kind of matters, but it kind of doesn't. The software that I have created at work renders 150,000 divs at one time. And at that scale, that's when we have to start worrying about rendering divs that are off the screen and scroll to a different point. But as a beginner, if you are nesting a div 3 levels down and are worried about going to the 4th, you can put that concern right out of your head. I have nested divs 25 or 30 levels down and have not hit any performance issues. So if you try and get really fancy, yes, you can slow the browser down, but not something that you need to be concerned about at this point.
Does anybody else have any other questions? Or how about, do we have something that we want to share? Anything we did over the weekend, saw over the weekend?
This is Brielle, and I was mildly amused when I was reading an article on a news site and I saw a P at the end of one of their paragraphs. And I knew that was somebody typing a little too fast.
Yep. Every once in a while, you'll find something that, and you're like, and you'll do that more often now too. That once you get to going through this program, and then once you get through, you'll start looking at something, and you'll go to a website, and you're like, oh my God, this website's terrible. Like they need to do something with it, or do, change it, or do something. Or, you'll find something, and you're like, oh, look at it. That's a huge mistake. They need to fix that. It'll happen. It'll happen. So tonight we're going to start talking about JavaScript. We're just going to do some basic JavaScript because in is it 3 weeks that you start? Are you starting the JavaScript, Max, or is somebody else?
I believe Gus starts, and then I come in for the second half.
Okay, so in 3 weeks, you guys will be starting JavaScript with Gus. So tonight we're just going to go over some basic JavaScript, and we'll try a little. We have a couple of exercises that we'll try, and then tomorrow we'll do a little more, and we'll talk about trying to debug your code, and we're actually going to create a button and show you how that works. And then Wednesday we'll just build out a basic web page. So let me. Can you guys see that?
Yep. Yep.
Okay. Just want to make sure you guys can see it. Okay.
Karin, quick question. So these slides, they're really good. I was watching them on the YouTube. Now they're accessible in Google Classroom somewhere?
Yes, you should be able to access them in Google Classroom. And let me get. I'm going to send this. Dana, I'm going to send this to you because I can't see chat now that I've shared. You should have that. I sent it to you in Slack. Unmute yourself because I can't hear what you're saying.
Okay, I've got it.
Okay.
I put myself on mute because I don't know if my typing is loud. If it is, just let me know and I'll go back on mute.
Okay. My mouse is like super crazy. Okay, so JavaScript is it's a programming language, and it's the one that you're going to use throughout the program, and pretty much you're going to use it probably just about anywhere that you go. Most companies, websites, everything they all use JavaScript, and it's used to write the programs in order to run the web page. And you can, there's a lot that you can do with it, but the most, one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to click on a button. We're going to do that tomorrow. But it allows the web page to respond when somebody mouses over. So like if you hover, how sometimes you go and you hover on something and a little pop-out comes up, that's JavaScript. Every time you click on a button to go see something, that's JavaScript. And it can also help you control how your web page looks. Okay, so there's 5 types of data that JavaScript uses. There's numbers, strings, booleans, arrays, and objects. But tonight we're only going to cover numbers, strings, and booleans. You will get to arrays and objects, but that's when you guys hit your JavaScript module starting in 3 weeks. So numbers are exactly what they are. They're numbers, and they're going to look just like a number. Strings are used to represent any text that you use, and they always have an opening quote and a closing quote. You will find that if you don't have one, you're going to get an error. So if you get an opening quote and all of a sudden you have this error, one of the things that you're going to want to look for is if you have the closing quote, and you'll do that a lot. I don't know how many times in the beginning of when I was in the program, I would get an error and I'm like, oh my God, what is wrong with this thing? There were times where I started through my code looking for brackets, braces, quotation marks, and that's what it was. Something as simple as that. Excuse me. Booleans are always a true false value. It's always going to give you a true false value. So an example of that would be like whether or not today is still March, the month of March, and that's going to be true. If somebody said no, it's April, that would be a false. Numbers and operators in JavaScript, you can just do basic mathematical operations. So you can add, subtract, multiply, divide, and we're actually going to do some of that tonight. There are others in there. I actually have never used like the modulus or the increment or the decrement. I haven't used those myself personally. Variables. You're going to, JavaScript uses variables. And what it does is, so it gives you, it allows you to name the value. When you're going to create a variable, and what it does is, so it stores that value for you, right? You're going to create a variable, and that variable is going to be equal to the value that you want it to be of the data, and it'll store it for you so that you can use it in your code. And when you create a new variable, you're either going to use var, which allows the value to be changed, or const. And a const, the value will not get changed. So, and I have a couple examples on here of the two. So anytime, and there's a variable that you can name it anything. There is a list that you cannot use because they are used for like functions and other things. Can you guys see that, or do you need me to blow it up? You're good? Okay. So I gave you a couple of examples of like just variables, right? Drink, birthday. They don't have their initial values are always undefined because there's no value that was set to it. So if you tried to do a mathematical problem with, say, I'm looking at my own stuff, say the hour, right? And you wanted to add 2 hours together, because you don't have it set to any type of value, like an hour is 1 or 2, it's going to come back as undefined or return NaN. And you'll see that it'll say NaN, and it's not a number. NaN means not a number. You can also concatenate or add 2 strings together. So you could have a sentence that says, hello, my name is, and then your name. But if you didn't have values to those, they're going to come back as undefined. So in the next part, I gave you values to those variables and that I created, right? So you have hours equal to 3, a drink is equal to water, your age is equal to 21, and a birthday is equal to today. So do you guys have questions about this before we dive into trying some of this out and testing it out?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that when we did the prep work to get into the program on Code Academy, I kind of remember some of this, but I thought let was the one that made the variable be able to change.
You can, yes. Yep. A const will never change. And if you use var, you can change it and you just say let age be 5.
Okay, so you can use either one. Okay.
Yes. Any other questions? We still take, I don't want to, I see you're taking some notes, so I don't want to rush you too much. When you're ready, let me know. And you guys don't have to look at this. It'll be on the slide. It's just a list of the words that you should not use as a variable because you will use them in functions. So they're used in other places in JavaScript, and they're meant to do other things. But if you guys are ready, we'll hop into the exercise and get you going. Yes? All right. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a minute so I can open up a browser. So I just want you guys to open up Chrome. See if I can get this. Okay. Does everybody have Chrome up? Yes. Okay. Doesn't matter what what's on the page. It makes no difference whatsoever. I would like for you to open the console. Do you remember how to open the console?
2 fingers or something. Can you remind us?
Yep. Just right click on the page.
Inspect.
And then inspect. Yes, that is correct. So when you guys get the, let me share my screen now so that you can see what I'm looking at here. Okay. When you guys open up the console, I want you to click this tab right here at the top that says console. Can you see that? Do I need to make it bigger? Good. Okay. See this? You got a little caret here and your cursor's right next to it. We're just going to start. We'll do some basic math, right? So you can type 4 plus 7 and it's automatically going to give you what it is. Hit enter and it should say 11, right? You guys can do any, you can type it.
You have to click enter, it just pops up.
Yes, it does. Yep, but if you click enter, it gives you a new line to start with another line of code. And you can put anything in there. You don't have to use the numbers that I'm putting in there. You can put anything in there, you know, 8, and then like the little star guy, that's to multiply. Put anything in there. So the / is divide. Right? So that's pretty simple. You can use it like a calculator if you needed to. You know, if you didn't want to go hunting for where the calculator is on the computer, you could just open up a console, boom. Because it'll do, you could put a giant number in there and it'll still do it. If you did. It'll give you the answer. So now we'll make some variables, right? So we'll say var age. And if you hit enter, it gives you undefined. Why is it giving me undefined?
We haven't told it what age equals.
That's right. That's exactly it.
Right.
Because we haven't told it what age equals. So if we give age, so if we do var age equals, we'll say 29 because my daughter turns 29 today. If you hit enter, it's still going to give you undefined. What you need to do is you need to call age. So now if you just type in age, it'll give you what your value is, right? Did you guys follow that? Who's got questions?
I do. Can you repeat that step? So
I sure
watch
can.
the screen?
Yes, I can. Okay, so we're going to give the variable age a number, right? My son will be 21 this year, so we'll say 21. If I hit enter, it's going to come back as undefined because we didn't call the variable. We just set it to a value, right? So in order to get that to be not undefined, we need to call the variable to get the return value. So we're just going to type in age, and whatever we set that value at, it's going to return 21 because we set it at 21. Do you want me to do another one? Do you guys want to try one on your own? You tell me. I'll do more if you want me to.
I'm already following along with you.
Yep, I'm with you.
I'm following too. I'm just curious, why are we not using console log or?
We'll get to that tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
We definitely will get to that tomorrow. This is just the beginning of JavaScript. And this is just using that. So that's a number. If we wanted to say,
Karin?
yes.
Question when you
Sure.
have a second.
Sure.
Yeah. I have where we did age, then the next line 29, then var space age 21.
Yep.
And I hit return and I get uncaught syntax error, unexpected VM381:1 number. And I tried to do exactly what you were doing. So maybe I just missed a little something.
Did you put an equal sign in there?
Let's see. Var age equals, oh, hello. Thank you. That would do it.
And you did that without looking at it. You're good.
Without looking at, no, I've been
Karen's
following her.
good.
I was
Karen's
looking.
good.
So
It
now
won't let me change it though.
it won't let you change it.
I can't put, oh, I see. Is a text box. No. Okay, so X out of that fella. Huh. All right. Anyway, keep going. We'll figure it out.
Carolyn, just close out the console and then reopen it and see if that helps.
Will I lose what I did?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's just
Oh.
blank. You can put it all back in
But
there.
it was fun. Okay.
You'll be able to put it all back in there. So now let's try a string, right?
Now where'd it go?
If we give name the variable, right? Do name and we'll give it a value. You can name it, you guys can put whatever you want in there. It doesn't have to be exactly what I'm doing. If we hit enter, it's undefined, right? But if I call name, it's going to give me my value.
Can you do that again and add in an apostrophe? Like what if your name was, I don't know, Karin with an apostrophe in there? How would you do that? I've been trying it in quotation marks and it's not working.
Trying it in quotation marks?
Yeah, like to have my name be one thing
So
read as the name.
Okay, yeah.
And then I tried to slash too because I saw that somewhere. I think that works in the terminal.
Oh, it still doesn't like it.
I don't know if this will actually work or not, but because I can never remember if, right. So now it's giving me the same error that.
You didn't have the equal sign. I don't know if that matters.
Yes, that's right. Good catch. Thank you very much.
It's not going to work because you have a typo in name.
Yep, you're right. And I don't have enough. Yeah, I think.
Do you mean to be concatenating them?
Yes, I do.
Pluses.
I know. Remember when I said you could add strings together?
Mm-hmm.
This is how you do it.
Oh,
You put the first part. So this is how you're going to get your apostrophe in there. Oh, it came back undefined.
You still have to run name and it will come back with the whole string.
There's your apostrophe.
so it looks like you had to do it twice and one came back undefined. Can you clarify that? The var, you did a var and then you.
Right, because we didn't call name. We have to call the variable.
Okay.
I
And
just hit enter. So when I typed all that out, I just hit enter and it came back as undefined because I didn't call the variable name.
Got it.
Then when I went down to the next line and I called name, it gave what LaTanya was trying to do, which was try and put an apostrophe in her name.
So if I understand right, after you put in the var line, then you have to do the name and enter, and it would have come back Karen like that?
Yes.
Got it.
Yep. And that's, yes.
I just had a quick question about the spaces. So I was able to do it with the apostrophe, but I didn't put spaces between the addition signs, the pluses, and it still worked, but it's syntax wise, they're supposed to be spaces.
It's easier to read.
Okay.
Good.
So if somebody else is reading your code, it'll be easier for them to see, oh, you concatenated those strings together. And you can do, so if we do var, oh, because I didn't put a space in there. So do you know why that looks funny? I took two variables and I made two strings, right? And then when I added the two variables together, it gave me the value of the two strings, but it mashed the first one and the second one together, right? It says hello my, and it looks like it's all one word.
Right. Because there's no space in the second one?
Nope. The way to solve that would be, we'll do it again, var greeting equals hello, and then put a space after the first word and then your quotation mark.
Got it.
So now if I do greeting plus name.
Plus name.
Oh, would it work if you did it the other way and put the space
after
yeah, in the second one, like after the quote but before the M? Or yeah.
Sure, why not?
Corey, that was your question, right? To put the space after the quote in the second one.
Yeah.
So now we'll do greeting plus name. There you go.
Yeah, okay.
So it will work both ways. You can put it, you just have to know what two strings you're concatenating together. You guys follow that okay?
Mhm. Yep.
We're good with that? Okay.
Yeah, that was good. Thanks.
Karen, I went online while you were talking, and I saw that there was like, you know, these operators here.
Yep.
You know, and I found a glossary, and I was just, if you have a chance to peek at that, is that a good resource? Do you approve it?
Do you want to share it?
I put in the
Here,
chat the link.
let me stop sharing if you want to share it, because I can't see it.
Okay.
Oh, I see where you're at. I got it right here. Let's see.
You see it in the
There's
chat?
a lot. Yeah, there are a lot of resources for everything.
Mm-hmm. It was like a JavaScript cheat sheet. I didn't know if
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I mean, it's not gonna, it looks halfway decent. There's, like I said, there's a lot of them.
Mm-hmm. To my fellow students, then hey, go for it.
A lot of what's in that resource, you will get to in in 3 weeks, when you start JavaScript. You will get to a lot of that.
Okay, good. Thank you.
One thing to note is that JavaScript is by far the most popular programming language. And it's a programming language that a lot of beginners start with. So you're going to find a ton of resources out there. While I would encourage you guys to share those resources with each other, I would also encourage you to try and use the resource before you share it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I want to screen it through you guys, and before sharing. Thank you.
Do you guys have questions about about what we've gone over so far? About naming variables? Oh, that's not what I wanted.
Yeah, I just successfully got a screenshot of some of what you were doing, so I can go back and do it again because I had to keep closing the console. And I found where the screenshot went, and I'm so proud of myself. Just thought I'd share that. And I can walk and chew gum at the same time on Sundays only. All right. Anyway.
Okay, let me just take a quick peek here. Okay, let's try some. I don't know if this is gonna. See that error?
That's the one I got before.
Why is it telling me that it's already been declared? What did I do differently?
Because you put the age 29 in const.
Yes, that's right. So because I made that a constant, it means that it can't be changed. And then I went in and I tried to change it. It said, you can't do that. You already made it 29. So that's what you need to use it as. I would either need to go up and change that to a var if I wanted to be able to change it, or I would need to create another variable.
Now, my question is, it wouldn't let me either proceed with what I was doing or backspace to get rid of the error. I had a little different error, but the same idea. Or like hit on it to do a text thing, and then I had to close out console. But in this case, you would just keep going, right? And it would fix it.
Yeah, if I went back and I wanted to say, I mean, I can still go in here and now I can say, all right, well, let's say it's 11.
And it changed to the, okay, so you can't actually click on the red and by putting in a new line, it. Fantastic, thank you.
And it's still saying, hey, you already named it.
Yeah, so such is the life of a developer, right? Okay.
So have you guys tried some of this? Have you guys been coding along or? Yeah. So do you have any questions about anything that we've covered so far? Things you can and can't do?
I have a question. How would you go up and change the const age of 29 to var? Would you just click on? Because I don't know if that didn't work for me when I tried it.
Well, I don't know if it. I can't do it in the console, can I, Max?
It didn't allow me to. That's why I'm asking.
No, it won't. What I don't know is if you hit the clear console icon, which is right next to the top, if
this
it will
little circle.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm just showing that I was showing them that it's this circle, like it's a circle with a line through it. If you clear that,
it will probably let you do it. The vast majority of your code is not going to be written in the console. This is just a quick way for us to get into a playground and start giving you the basics of JavaScript. So when we actually write our JavaScript, we're going to be doing that in VS Code. And then the browser is going to be what executes it. But whenever we want to update it, it will be a file. So we can go in and change that const to a let or whatever it will be. But we're just kind of using this as an instructional tool. And it's also something that if I have a quick question of like, oh, I don't know how this JavaScript code is going to run, I will hop in the console and put in a couple lines and see what happens. But this is more of just like a quick playground than it is a like a long-term where I'm going to write my code kind of thing.
Okay, I got it. I'm understanding what you're saying then.
Right.
So to piggyback on that one, so when you put the const in there, and you you assign it a value, but then you want to give it another value down below, what do you do? Like you continue program, what do you use? Or is it always going to be that because it's a constant?
So if you make it a constant, it will always be whatever that value is that you give it. You will not be able to change it. If you want to be able to change the value, use var.
Got it.
Var will allow you to change it to anything.
Let. Var is legacy JavaScript.
Oh, okay. So let.
Okay, got it.
So if you used let age equal 11. Oh, see, and it didn't do that. Gave me a big error, Max.
Because clearing the console didn't work, so you have to close out of it completely.
Yeah, and that's what I thought.
So when I went to go clear it, like I X'd out the console, but I didn't X out the same Google Chrome that I was using, and it didn't work. So would you have to X out the Google Chrome and then use a completely different console? Does that make sense?
And we're gonna find that out right now because that's what I'm gonna do. So it let me change it when I opened a new window. So I opened a new window and closed out the other one. It's still coming up with my values though. Why is that, Max? Because that's what I don't know.
So it let you override age. So you're completely cleared out now. So you should be able to update age because it's a let.
Yes, but I opened up a new window in order to do that. But
Yeah,
as soon as I started
consoles are
typing,
tab specific.
okay.
So if you open a new tab or a new window, that's going to give you an entirely different console instance. But in terms of clearing the console, that's just going to kind of clear out the what is visible. It doesn't clear out the memory.
Got it.
So now let's put a string and a number together. Right? We've got name, age. Actually, I need to change that. Did you guys try that? So you're just adding your two variables together?
Just one quick question about the quotes. Should it always be double quotes or can it be a single quote?
I generally they use double quotes. And when you get picky let me take that back. You have to be careful with what you're putting in there also. Sometimes if you like, how do I explain this? In your HTML, if you use double quotes, but you need to have like text represented, you would put that text in so it would look like you always have double quotes, but then if this needed to be your text for some reason, you would put that in single quotes and then put your double quotes around it.
Okay. But would it work if I use the single quotes when creating like where you have Henry is like that could be put in single quotes? I'm just wondering if there's like a syntax thing, like a preferred.
So it's still run it.
Okay,
right? It's still allowed it to run, and but it put it in double quotes.
So
it made it
must be.
Name and age. That's what she did.
So yeah, double quotes and single quotes are treated the same in JavaScript. There's no preference by the computer. However, most programmers tend to lean towards double quotes, only because it's common to need an apostrophe in your string, right, to do a possessive or whatever. It is entirely possible to use what is called an escape character. but that's getting a little advanced. So basically, double quotes are always preferred because you can use an apostrophe in your string. However, if you need to use a double quote in your string, that is when you would use a single quote as your outer quote, and then you could use your double quote inside as well. So they are pretty interchangeable. The computer doesn't really care what you're using, but if you need to use the outer version in the inner of the string, it's normally common to see them kind of inverted, right? So if you're using that double quote inside your string, you would use the single quote outside, or if you needed an apostrophe inside your string, you would use the double quote on the outside.
Yeah, and it'll definitely, like, it's broken. People have broken code by not putting in the quotes and what they use. Although TypeScript, which is not anything that you guys will be learning, that uses single quotes more than it does double quotes. Ask Mac about TypeScript, he doesn't like it.
I have a few choice expletives that I will not express while this is being recorded.
The short version is TypeScript makes you, when you're declaring your variables, it wants you to give it the actual type. So I'll give you an example, but you're not going to be using it. I'll show you an example of how because I have to use it at work. That's an example of TypeScript. So the variable is name, and they want to know what type it is. Is it a string? Is it a Boolean? Is it a number? So you define what type it is, and then you give it its value. But JavaScript doesn't use it, and you'll be so much, you'll like that JavaScript doesn't use it if you ever have to use TypeScript, because it's a nightmare.
So Karin, I gave it a swing, and then I ran into the same error where I forgot to put the space by the quotation. I can't remember how you fixed that.
So did you use let?
Oh, shoot.
Did you use let for your variable?
Let me see. I started.
If you started with let, you can just rewrite it.
Mm-hmm.
And then
name plus action. Okay. So then, is it let is the action that puts it all together?
The plus is what puts, if you're putting two bit, do you want to share here? Why don't you share your screen?
Okay.
And we'll take a look.
You got, yeah, you are sharing screen.
Okay. So you used var. So just or either one, it doesn't matter which one you rewrite. If you're going to use name, put a space after the word is. If you're going to do it for action, put a space between the quotation mark and the letter B. Then it will give you that space that you're looking for.
So do I put var action equals and then put the space?
So here, type it out. You start typing it out. Put var action.
I'll just redefine.
Equals. That quotation mark. Space. Then put your, yep.
Okay. And then enter and then call it.
Yep.
No.
Nope, not, there you go.
Plus action. and then enter. No?
Hit enter again. There you go.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Carolyn had a question. Carolyn,
Sure.
Carolyn, have you been able to figure it out, or do you need Karen to do a quick demo? I think you're on mute. Still can't hear you.
No, I know.
Mhm.
The chat
Oh.
window was in the way, and then I zoomed by mistake. I'm like, what is these windows are live? It had to do with where do I go first? And about inspect, and I actually right click when I'm in whatever web page I decide to be in. If I right click, that's when I choose inspect and then the console. Because somehow I was already in the console.
Oh. Mhm.
I did the, you know, the it's not a hamburger, but it's like the little ellipse up on its head there. And picked developer tools and went from there, which I used to do.
That's okay, as long as you're in developer tools.
But if I see the console, then that must mean I'm already in inspect.
Yes.
Oh, that's what confused.
Inspect and developer tools are synonymous.
Yep.
Oh, so if I right click on the page, pick inspect, it's just like going to the browser and picking developer tools.
That's correct.
Oh, okay. Those little things. Thank you.
Yeah, when you hit the right click, you just brought up a shortcut menu.
Yeah, I think those are the only two ways, aren't they, Max? To open the developer tools, or is there a keyboard
There's a
shortcut?
keyboard shortcut as well, but it's one that no one remembers, so people don't tend to use it. Right click inspect tends to be the way you get to it, but however you get to it is they're all the same, doesn't matter.
That's what I thought. And that's what I use. I use right click inspect because for me, that's the fastest way for me. Do you guys have any other questions?
Carolyn, you're back on mute. I see you talking. I'm not sure if you were saying something to the
Yeah,
group.
I didn't realize I was on mute, but we'll just chalk it up to thinking out loud. I'm trying to minimize this window again, but anyway, I'm here.
Are you talking about the Zoom window?
Yeah.
Okay, do you know how to do that?
Well, I don't know what happened.
Oh, okay. If it is maximized on your screen, if you just go up to the top of your screen to the left, you should, and you go over the white bar up at the top, you should see the X and then the minus sign in the yellow. You can click on that yellow minus sign. Okay.
Yeah. And so I just, I must have clicked on the green button. That's why.
Okay.
All right, there. Thank you. I'm so
No
used to
problem.
going to the right side of a window
Right.
to do that stuff. Thank you.
LaTanya, I see you making a lot of faces. What's going on? Yes, you're absolutely right, Elena. Practice, practice, practice.
LaTanya, you're on mute. I don't know if you were trying to unmute. Yep.
No.
Okay.
How do you get to Carnegie Hall?
Practice, man. Practice.
That's a good question, Susan. Are they even letting anybody in?
That was just a joke for practice, practice,
Carnegie
practice.
Hall up at SU or the Sci-Tech Library is where I had my first job at SU back in '93. I think they're open. So that's Carnegie Hall.
Well, there you go.
Close enough for jazz, right?
Find Carmen Santiago, I think. Where the heck is Carmen Santiago?
Oh, I'm not sure.
Wait, isn't it where in the world is Carmen Sandiego?
Yeah,
San
Carmen
Diego.
The woman with the red,
Sandiego.
with the red hat, the jacket,
Boy, you guys are dating me. I think my daughter used to watch that.
There will be no more fun in this class.
It's on Netflix? Get out of
Oh, wow.
here.
Really?
They rebooted it.
Yeah, it's a reboot of the what is her name? The girl from Jane the Virgin. Can't remember her name off the top of my head, but she does the
Wow.
voice for Carmen Sandiego.
San Diego, that's how I say it. Mhm.
Oh, see, now I don't even remember if she. I don't remember her talking in the original one. Did she talk? I always just remember the one who used to. And maybe I'm watching the whole completely wrong thing, but like the announcer or whatever she was, and she would spin that globe. Didn't she spin a globe?
Mhm.
She's the one I remember.
She still spins a globe. She just talks now.
I think she watched that and like the Magic School Bus because they did such weird, like they got real tiny all these
Yes, with
places.
Mrs. Frizzle. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I love Mrs. Frizzle.
Well, does anyone know the show Zoom? It started in Boston and then it was on PBS.
Yeah.
Come on and Zoom. I had a high school friend that was on 2 seasons of that. I didn't know her then, but ubby-dubby, we're all gonna start speaking ubby-dubby. I can speak Pig Latin. So what are we doing? People are just practicing or taking a moment?
Yeah. Taking a moment, as long as you got this down, making sure when nobody's got any questions about this part of it. Tomorrow we're gonna get into so we're gonna write a little bit of code and we're gonna create a button. We're gonna actually take like your header and where you have the search bar. We're gonna create a search bar with a button. And you guys are gonna type in some input or whatever and watch it come up on a different page. And we'll go over some debugging. Yes.
Can you show us how to do a Boolean in the console?
Boolean?
Or is that, yes, or is that something that we'll be learning at a later time?
Boolean is just it's just the true false, but yeah, we can. My windows never want to cooperate. I want to make sure you guys can see them. So when you call the variable that you set to true, it's just going to come back as true. So if we put and then you could put two of them together. I just put a big.
You have a typo.
Oh, I always do. Are you talking to yourself or did you have a question?
Oh my gosh. I thought I was off of mute for a second. I am talking to myself. I'm like reading your screen, but then like talking in my head so I can type it on my screen. Yeah, that's a
Okay.
whole thing.
That's okay, because I do that too. Did you have any other questions about that?
That was good. Okay, got it.
Yeah, no, I don't have any questions. That was pretty straightforward. I get it now.
I mean, if you have any questions, I'll answer.
I have
Answer
a
them to the
quick
best of
question.
my ability. Sure.
I'm sure you covered this, but trying to put all the parts, it's like you're trying to control my brain. If I simply type in something like age equals 60, is that automatically a let? Or automatically, or is it just you're declaring the value? When do I have to put let or constant if I just put?
If you put age equals 60, it's just going to say 60 after it. Like,
Okay.
see how it gave it the 60?
Yep. So if you just
So-
want the output.
If you just want the output, yeah, it'll automatically give it the output, but
Okay.
that's generally not what you want to do when you're trying to write your program.
No, it's just learning, although I did have something like that in Local Basic years ago that I put together for students when they did math stuff and they would get, return. And that's all they got was the, so then what would a good example of let be?
So let is whatever the variable is that you're going to name, and you can use anything for a variable pretty much, other than the list that's on the slides.
Okay.
I mean, you could say
Can just about any word be used as a variable?
Yeah.
So
Yep.
like let season equal spring,
yes,
because that is going to change.
right. Yeah. So you could say
Okay.
let season equal.
Move the
Spring.
chat out of the way so I can see.
Oop.
what we're doing. There we go.
I'm using my tab button.
So I saw that Max said
yeah,
that
'cause,
var was a legacy. So typically
Yes.
nowadays we would use let instead of var then.
Yes.
Yes.
So it's Monday is, does come and go. Okay. And so let month equals March would make a lot of sense. All right.
Right.
And then pick up something. Well, constant would be my name.
Yeah.
If I-
Generally, you're going to use const when it's a variable that you don't want the value to change.
Yeah.
So if you didn't,
Sorry.
so if you don't want your name to change, you're going to use const. Or if you don't want your age to change.
Well,
So it's totally going to depend on the code that you're writing.
Okay.
So if you were writing something and it needed to entail just your birthday, obviously you'd want that to be a constant because that's not going to change.
Like registration information, you would put in the year, month, day, year that you were born. That would stay the same. I mean, your age.
Right. That would be a constant. Yes.
Okay.
So in the scenario, okay, I'm just kind of catching up with
Thank you.
this. So when I go on and shop online, right, and the variable would be like you buy a pressure cooker for a set of value, right, and then it has to add the tax, right, depending on what state you're in. So in programming, the variable would change if I chose a different shopping item, like a silverware set.
Right.
What Java? Now, how do you? So, age here is constant, 60. So how do you program it to, be able to change if you choose a different item in the shopping cart? I guess in the programming context, your variable is going to have to change eventually, right?
It'll depend on your code, right? So in the instance of, so like what you're talking about, the item that's in the shopping cart, that the price of that can change based upon the item. But the tax would be a constant for
New York,
whatever state you're right. That would be because that doesn't change. It's a constant.
The amount the tax would come to would change, but that's a different part of the site, the function to figure that out.
And that would be right. And that would be some that. So
how would I code that changing variable for the different, because like I'm with you, the constant would be the 8% sales tax on the website, but how do they program the different, how do they code the different variables for the different items? Am I saying it right?
So they would give them their own variables. So
also there would be a unique, so there would be a unique, so age would, so you're saying that there would be different ages defined upon each sales item? Is that, trying to catch it.
So you're just going to name it whatever variable for that category. Like if they had a category that was for silverware, maybe they wanted it to be they wanted that variable to be silver. And then if they had, like in the jewelry department, they wanted necklaces to have a variable would be gold.
Okay, so you're saying each sales item has its own variable definition?
Correct.
Got it. Okay. Oh, and then, so the Boolean for that.
Boolean is a true or false value.
Oh no. So what is that? A function?
The Boolean is
the
Boolean
tax.
No, that's going to be farther down, and you'll get to something like that in the module when you guys start actually creating functions in order to like calculate tax and things like that.
Okay, got it. I'm jumping ahead. Got it.
Yeah, you're jumping ahead. This is just naming your variables and whether or not you can change the value. So if you have const in front of your variable, you're not going to be able to change the value. It'll be whatever the value is that you set it at. If you use let in front of your variable, then you will be able to change that variable.
Change that variable. Got it. Because in my capstone ID concept, I wanted to really focus on helping middle schoolers with math. And I know that the formula would stay the same, but the initial value for the problem would change, and that's coming up later. I get it.
Oh, Corey, I put a link in the chat to help understand the differences between let and const. And I can go ahead and repaste it again. It just says, as a general rule, you should always declare a variable with const. And it's the same thing that Karin was saying. If you realize that it needs to change, you go back and you use let instead of const. And Karin, there was a question in the chat for you. Susan wanted to know if you could give another example of using const.
Sure. So I did an example of let. It let me change the value of gold, right? First I had necklace in there, and now I set it to rings because I used let. So it allowed me to change it. If I go in now And if I say, oh, maybe if I say const gold equals rings.
It didn't
maybe
let you.
I know it didn't let me laugh.
What about if you go all the way up to the top where it says let silver equals silverware? That'll probably just stop everything.
You can't change a variable once it's declared. You cannot change the type of it. So if
Mhm.
it is you declare it as a let, then you can update that value by saying gold equals and then whatever you want. But you can't change it from a let gold to a const gold because the gold is already initialized as a let.
Okay.
Right. And what I was saying, just to visualize that so that they could see that it actually wouldn't be allowed, would be to go all the way back up to the top where she started with a let, to see how if she changed it to const, that it would just mess up everything else that was already there, because you're not supposed to do that.
So const that's set. If I go in and I want to try and do so if I try to change it to ground, it's going to say you can't do that because you've already declared it, is what Max was saying.
Mhm.
So with let, so that comes up as ground, but now we can change it if we want to, right? We can say, nope, we don't want it to equal that. We want it to equal this.
Oh,
Now it changed it.
got it.
So if it's a const, you can't change the value ever. It'll be whatever you set it to. But if you use let, you can go back and change your variable, the value of the variable, by just changing it.
Okay.
I can change it again.
So let's use a lot, if I'm gathering that right.
Let allows you to change the value of your variable.
Yeah, got it.
If you use const, you will not be able to change the variable value, I should say. So even after we did all of that, if I went back up here and tried to say that this was something else, it's going to say you can't do that because you already declared it at the top to be sky. So now that I did that, if I just call it though, it's going to give me that, excuse me, that value that I set it at the beginning. Did that help, Susan?
Yeah, I think so.
I just thought of a way to help remember let. I just thought of a way to help remember let. If you think let me change my mind, you just say let you change your mind, because that's visually that's what it's doing in my mind anyway when I think of it.
Do you want me to do a couple more examples? I can do them if you want. I don't have any, I'll show you some more.
So Karin, if I got you right, when we're shopping on Amazon, all of those shopping items have a variable, a constant variable for their price?
They either have, it's either It's either a constant or it's one that will be allowed to be changed, the value of it. The
Okay.
value of the variable. So if we have a variable, somebody give me a variable, anything, give me something.
100.
Not a value, a variable.
A pot.
A pot.
Okay. Okay, so const pot equals, now give me a value.
Okay.
100?
100. 100.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So
Picking up price.
now we're gonna call it, and it's gonna give me the value of 100.
Mhm.
But if I want to come back and say, I really don't need 100, I only need 50, it's going to say you can't do that. You've already set this to 100. So that variable pot has to equal 100. You can't change it.
Right. Yep. That's a lot.
Hey, let somebody give me a different variable.
Computer.
Okay, now I need a value.
Laptop. You're in the shadows, Dana. You're hiding.
So when I call that, it's going to say, okay, yep, I have that value. But now I can come in because I used let, and I can say, computer, I want you to equal desktop. Oh, see what I did? I used a single quote and not a double quote.
Oh, one. Yeah, I kept running into that when I was working on this other stuff, the little things. Yeah.
And I spelled computer wrong.
It's cool. Keep it that way. Let's tweak our perfectionism, all right?
How did that happen? Oh,
Because I was not paying attention to what I was doing.
but it still pulled up the
Yeah.
value.
Well, it's going to pull up what I did.
But with the typo, it still pulled up the value. That was interesting.
Oh, see, I can't spell tonight. Apparently my fingers have had enough of the keyboard today.
You know what? Let's do the spellos. Let's just leave them in there.
There.
It's therapy.
Okay. So I will put it in the Google Classroom. Your homework is going to be just some free code camp. Can you guys see this? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
I want you to go to free code camp for the where it says basic JavaScript and just do the first 11 like bullet points here or whatever they are. Just the first 11 and that's it. Which I think brings you down to divide one number by another.
And do we need to take a picture and submit it again like the CSS and HTML?
Yeah. Yep. It shouldn't take you guys too long. If I can get myself. There we go. That shouldn't take you guys too long. The first 11. It's pretty much everything that should be pretty much everything that we covered tonight. Do you guys have any questions? If you don't have any questions, get on out of here.
Are you gonna drop the link, or I just want to make sure that I'm doing the right one before I do it. I got JavaScript algorithms and data structures. Is it that one?
Should be.
It has 111 courses.
Yes, but don't do just the first 11.
Just the first 11. Okay, I can
Just
drop
the first 11.
link into Slack while I have it up if that's helpful to anybody. I'll do it in the chat in the.
Thanks, Alina.
Very welcome.
I couldn't hear what was that last point?
Oh, we were just doing the first 11 on the free code camp. in that link that I just dropped for homework.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
And then
it's
I
only
dropped that
the,
into Slack as well, if anybody needs it there.
What's in Slack? Got it. There.
Corey, I recognize your background. You're over at Common Space.
Yes, I am. I'm trying to get done tonight.
Okay. Did you get signed into the Wi-Fi over there?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay, great. So my memory did serve me correctly then.
Mhm.
I was
Yeah,
like,
thank
oh my
you.
gosh, what is the Wi-Fi? But if right behind you on the wall is a television there, that's actually the music control station. Right
Mhm.
above it, there should be something on the wall that has the Wi-Fi password if you ever
Yes,
need it again.
I took a picture of it.
Oh, good.
Mhm.
Okay,
Now I
good.
know where you are. I, not that I need to know, but I was like, there's really cool furniture, you know, is he at some
Mhm.
restaurant? Is he at
Yeah.
his house?
Yeah, I'm so
And then
thankful.
she let the cat
Yeah.
out of the bag. Now we know.
Yeah.
We
Yeah,
know where
he's
you are now.
yeah, he's in one of the booths. Remember those really nice booths that you saw when you all were taking the
Yeah,
tour?
oh yeah, it's
What,
like,
yeah.
all, yep.
It's
But I'm up
quiet.
in the Yukon, in case you were wondering.
Oh, I ran
Does
to
this like
the
drive people crazy? Is it moving? the
No, you're
background?
fine. You're fine. It's
Okay,
very
I was
calm.
trying to, yeah.
It's
Oh,
very
I need
calming.
it.
Mhm,
anybody that wants to go study here. I went and got some Chinese food. I just
mhm.
want to catch up on everything and
Yep, just focus.
tonight's the night.
Yeah.
I have a question based on what we were just doing. I was trying something, we were talking about the examples, and I was trying something with setting a const for tax by doing 1.08 so that it would be like 108% basically, and do it in one calculation. And I set the computer price to be, I just did let computer equals 1300, like our MacBooks. And then I put in the tax, and then I did price equals computer times tax, and it worked. And then I tried to do computer equals 1,000. And when I did price again, it's still coming up as 1404, not 1,080 or whatever it would be. I'm wondering why that didn't work.
Yes.
what was your const that you used?
The tax.
Mm.
And then the computer price should be able to change because I did let for that.
If you did that, yeah, if you did that, then your computer price should be able to change without any issues.
And the computer price changed because when I type computer, it says 1,000 now. But it's just when I do the calculation, it doesn't take that change of price into account for some reason.
I'd have to see it.
I can try to share my screen. I haven't done that before,
Sure.
but I can try to see if it works.
Did you refresh your console?
No, that wouldn't.
No.
Okay, is it sharing?
Yep.
Okay.
Price equals. That's right. Computer.
I tried
times
putting the
tax.
decimal in afterward. I thought, oh, maybe I didn't put the decimal. It doesn't like that.
So okay, you changed computer, but you need to redo computer times tax now that you've changed the price of the computer. So type
Okay, but
in
price is computer times tax.
Yeah, it's right there.
So I was just calling price, which was the same thing. I don't know. I can try typing it out like computer times tax. Maybe that will.
no, it should do it though. Let's see.
Computer, where's the star key? That worked, but it just doesn't work when I do price. Is it because, no, that wouldn't affect anything. Is the constant in the price, because one of the variables in the price is constant, is that going to mess it up, make the whole thing constant?
So it stayed. The first time you did it, you got 1404, right? So
Yeah.
so try.
Can you have a constant within another variable?
You should, well, your
Oh, I
constant's
didn't
not
put
gonna
let when I
change.
made price. I didn't put let when I made price. I bet that's what messed it up. Right here, I did
Yep.
price equals computer.
Right.
Okay. So let price equals
Oh, that makes great
Computer
sense.
times tax.
times tax.
Now hit enter.
Now when I
Now
do price.
call price.
Okay,
So
and
now
then I need to change the
now
computer again
hit
to, let's make
computer
it
to equal-
800.
Make it right. So now do price.
No, it's still doing it. Oh, because is it because I
see.
used the word let price after I'd already made the other variable price?
Hold on.
Maybe I can't use the
So
same
let
variable
computer
again.
equals $1,400.
Okay.
So let me do a variable cost instead, so I don't reuse the same thing.
Tax.
Cost
That- yeah.
equals.
That makes
um,
more sense to me.
Oh, no, I'm doing it again. It's because I learned Python a little bit and I'm forgetting about that
Yeah, it's
last thing, or you don't have to do that in Python.
like the price is what it costs.
So let
But,
cost equals computer times tax.
That's what you end up.
There we go. And then let's say the price went up again. So computer equals, let's call it 1100. And then I have to do cost this time. No, still doing it.
All right.
Hang on, I'm just trying to. No, I think you have to, I think when you change it, because it's going to give you a new price, even though you have that constant, you've changed the other variable though, which is a different. So now you need to say, well, let price now equal this. You had originally you had price. So it would be like having a sale, right? If you started out with $1,400 for your computer and then $8 was the sales tax. And you said, okay, here's the cost. Then you said, well, we're going to have a sale. So the computer's going to go down to $800. Now your price needs to change. So you need to say, well, okay, let my price change also, because you have one variable that's changing, but the other one is constant. So that constant variable can come all the way down each time it changes, whether it comes down or whether it goes up. But because you change the other one, you have to change the one where you're multiplying it. So you have to say again, so you'll say it again, like you did, let price equal computer times tax, because you changed the computer variable.
Well, I'm going to do cost because that was the second one, because I messed up by not doing let the first time with price. So cost, but do I have to do let? I don't have to do let because I've already made.
I don't think you
variable
do. No, I think you can just do cost equals computer times tax.
And just repeating the same thing though. I don't know why.
Then it change it because you're changing the variable. The one variable is being changed as you're going through.
Okay, so it's going to reject that if anything changes about any of the variables inside of it.
Right. If you have one variable that's going to change constantly, and you have one variable, but it's equal to two variables that are together, right? You're multiplying, adding them, whatever you're doing. If one of them is a constant, that's not ever going to change. But the one that you do change is going to change what this original variable was. So your original variable of cost is computer times tax.
Right.
You change computer, well, now your cost variable has also changed, and you need to let that computer know that, hey, I'm changing this variable of cost. It's now going to be this computer times the tax.
Okay.
You follow that? Does that make sense? So because you're playing with three because you're playing with
repeating the same thing again.
Yeah, you're repeating it because you're using that variable, but you're changing the values of two of those variables, right?
It's kind of like asking it to refresh the screen or something. Yeah.
Sort of, yeah. So, because your cost variable is going to change because you're changing the computer variable.
Okay, and it doesn't just do that automatically and use the new value of computer unless you kind of refresh it.
Until you say, hey, look I changed this variable here. So now you need to change with it because I've allowed for you to change. If you went in and wanted to say, hey, guess what? The tax increased to 10%. It's going to say, you can't do that because you made that a constant. That has to be constant throughout the whole thing. But because you did let, you can change your cost and you can change the computer values.
So if I made both of the variables let variables, would that affect that at all? Would I have to I'd still have to redo the cost variable?
Let's find out.
I guess I'd have to try it. I would need a new example code though, because this is getting, I can't use the word tax again. Maybe I should open a new.
Use
revenue.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Does that
All
work?
right, so. What do we want to make it? 5%? Okay, and then cost, price, I'm trying to think of another word. Value, maybe?
Total. You could say
total. Yeah, okay.
Total equals.
Oh, and I have to do let.
Yep. Let total equal.
Mm-hmm.
And then
you
can still use computer because that was.
Whoops, which I typoed. Computer times revenue. Did I spell that right? Okay.
Now just call total and it'll give you.
Okay, so that's based on the $1,100 computer, right? And then
so now change revenue. Say revenue equals.
Revenue equals, should we make it back to New York State here? Okay. And now I should call total again to see if that. No, so even if you use both of them as lets, you have to.
Yeah.
You have to.
So
change,
you would have to say total is still
total
computer
equals,
times.
Yeah.
Don't forget your let.
I don't think I need it because I already made.
Oh, you're right. That's right. Because you already declared it. You already
it.
declared that variable. Sorry.
Yeah. So now it went back
and
up.
it changed it. Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So when you change it, yeah, you have to.
Okay. I can stop sharing now, I guess, unless anybody wants me to leave it up for a second.
Can I share?
Yeah, I'm stopping mine.
Karen, I don't see any other questions in the chat, and I think everybody is pretty comfortable coming off of mute to continue with you, and I need to run.
Okay, that's
all right then. Okay, you all have a good night.
You too, Dana.
Okay.
Take care.
All right, bye-bye now.
Thanks. Oh.
I gotta move all this stuff out of the way so I can get out. Here we go.
Sorry. It would be so great if we didn't need sleep, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I mean,
oh, we're overtime. Right. So I saw that the variable can't be 2 words. Right.
Yeah, you can't have spaces, but you can do the camel case like you were talking about, like you have there.
Oh.
And then, so that first, I'm trying to get, like help students with math. That's ultimately my goal. And I know that when they put a first entry in and try to understand decimals and get their answers, but I think it worked when I changed the let value to 6, and it got the different
Oh,
answer, right?
yeah,
You're cool with you?
that's right. No, you did it right.
Okay.
Yep,
Okay,
because
just
you started out with an entry 1 of 5, and you had entry 2 of 0.08, and then you changed entry 1 to 6, and now you have when you multiply the two of them, it gives you 0.48.
Mhm.
So that's right. You did it right.
Good. Okay. And that was a lesson for tonight, right?
Yep.
Cool. All right. Y'all have a great
Awesome.
night. Thank you so
You
much.
too.
Claire. Yeah.
See you later.
See you guys later. Yeah. On to homework.
I'm going to bed early tonight. I
Mhm.
need to do that.
It'll be good.
Yeah, I think that'll help a lot.
Thank
Thanks,
you. I
Karen.
really enjoyed this class. It
Yeah,
made
this
me
was-
feel just more confident after the weekend because that was
I
rough.
did this, yeah.
It'll
me
it'll
too.
get better. I
I
mean,
agree with Tanya.
you know, definitely keep up with your stuff as much as you can, but just practice what you
Give
can.
up.
You know,
Yeah.
just doing a little bit of stuff that you did, Kyle. That I mean, like that'll help you because you're like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, this is cool, and it'll get better. And when you guys get
Uh-huh.
into JavaScript in a few more weeks, that's what you're gonna want. Tomorrow we're gonna we'll do some like debugging
Oh,
so
cool.
that you can catch errors. Like you saw tonight how when I only had like on the one end, it had just the single quote instead of the double, and it gave me an error right away. You can still do that within your code. And that's where console.log is going to come in.
Okay.
And we're going to talk about that tomorrow. And then we're just going to do some coding. We'll do the nav bar and we'll get a search bar in there with a button. So you guys can do that. And I know, LaTanya, that you had asked a question and Max kind of said, wait till the end. And then they all just kind of left about your comments in the code.
Oh, is that what my question was?
Yes.
Oh, because
When
he
you
asked
said,
me in personal chat and I forgot. I was like, yeah, my attention span is not. Okay.
I wrote it down so that I
Thank
wouldn't forget. So my comment on that is, if it's your own code and it's not stuff that you're going to be putting out anywhere right now, if it helps you to put comments in for little things, like don't forget that, you know, if it's, I'll use tonight's lesson as an example, right? If you're writing some code and you get in there and you say, don't forget let allows you to change the value of your variable. Do it. If that helps you remember right now, do it.
Okay.
You know, and if you put const means I cannot change the value of the variable, put it in there.
Okay.
There's times where in my code, I can put comments in, you know, like the JavaScript file, because that's where all of the magic happens. But I'll put in there like, okay, at this point, this is what I need to do. I need to create my form first. And then I'm going to, you know, have this function is going to, you know, multiply these two numbers together. You can put little bits of pieces of code in there like that.
Okay.
It not only will it help you, but it will also help somebody who comes in 2 years down the road and looks at your code and they're like, I don't know why why did they create this function? If you have a comment in there that says this function multiplies, you know, the cost times or multiplies the computer times the revenue to get me the cost, then they'll be like, oh, okay, now I understand why they did it.
Yeah. That helps
So
us
you
too.
can,
Because I actually went and I started one and then I went to another one and started building that page. And I went back and I was like, what was I thinking? Like, I was just like, what am I? So I started putting comments in. So I'm like, I have no idea what I was doing here.
Good point, because even if it's your code, we talk about attention span, it's like your code from last week. I mean, that happens to my husband sometimes. He'd be like, okay, what?
Yeah.
And he's a good coder. I mean, he's really,
you can,
but
You
know.
can definitely put comments in your code. When you get to the point where you're going to deploy that code, which means that it's everybody in the world is going to see it and people are going to be using it, you don't want your comments in that.
Oh, no comments at all, even if they're like clean, professional, meaningful.
I know where you're coming from.
I mean, there is a difference. I mean, you know, like if there are comments, like I said, where you're telling and, you know, putting a comment in like, I did this, you know, this is to create, you know, this is to get me the cost of whatever, then yes, that's acceptable. When you say that, like, oh, I need to study this more or something like that,
yeah,
you don't want to
really
put
hungry,
that in.
I need dinner.
Right, yeah.
That's what documentation is for, though.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, if
Yes.
it's to explain, you know, the software, so someone can say, this was my reasoning, not that I was hungry. This was my reasoning, and that's what documentation, that's a
good
whole other
point.
skill set.
Yeah, yeah. That's
And it's not a bad one to have. You know, documentation is definitely a, you know, if you can get into it, it's definitely a good thing to get into.
And I have a question about that. You know, we bring in CSS, we bring in functions and so forth. Can you bring in documentation? Is there like in the code so that when you know, they will see? Or
It's not going to be, that's not the same thing. If you want somebody to understand why you did something, it's easier to just put a little comment in, like Latanya was saying.
Right.
You know, like put a comment and say, you know, oh, well, this is going to, you know, I put this in because of this, or this is what this is going to do. Something simple like that. And if you, documentation is generally, it explains, like a lot of NPM packages will have documentation, and it'll tell you, you know, if you want, these are all the things that this package can do for you, and this is how you would access them. You know, if you're going to use a method, and you'll get into those down the road, it'll say these are the methods that are available to you, like on change,
and that's
on
for
click.
the user. But what about for a developer, like almost like a set of procedures that a scientist uses? Is there the equivalent of the comments, except it's its own file, or it's its own document, so a programmer can see what you were thinking with it?
That's I'd have to look at one, but I want to say that's like the README file. Don't quote me on that. I have to double check on
little
that.
Thing. I still need to have that in there, don't I? I think I do.
I have to double check that, but I'm pretty sure that's what a lot of those are. The README files are, it explains a lot of like the steps and why they did what they did.
As opposed to just the here, you can, you know, change your colors, which is a whole other part. Okay, that's wonderful. Thank you.
Yep.
So when you're saying that you're not supposed to have comments in your like final published version of the code, so would you just kind of have two versions that you're putting in your Git account, and you like have your finished code with the comments in it, and you push that to Git, and then you would remove all the comments and push that version and say like comments removed or something, and then say you want to do an update a month later, you would pull down the version with the comments, do the updates, and then push both versions up again, and you could constantly work off the one with your comments if you wanted to reference them, but just publish the one without the comments. Is that how you might do that?
Right. So generally,
I mean, maybe this probably isn't very important right now because we're just
no, that's a really good question, and I want to answer that. Hold on one second.
And I wonder if another option, instead of doing all of that, because that sounds like a lot, it's just to like hide them. Like, is there just a way to leave them in there and hide them? You know?
Yeah.
The comments?
Yeah.
Change the
I'm not
color
supposed to share them.
to black for your black screen and white for your white screen. Invisible ink.
Well, somebody should design an app for that. Maybe that's a capstone project.
Maybe. Might try to assist with technology. Yep.
Only because this is the best way that I can.
Or at least one that takes out the comments quickly.
So what you're doing
so
is
when you guys
blurred out. Oh, there we go.
Can you see it?
Yeah.
You guys see that?
Blurry.
Okay.
Oh, it's blurry. Yeah.
It is.
Hold on.
blue.
You have a blurred background, so.
Better?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
All right. So when you write your code,
Mm-hmm.
you have what's called a master branch, right?
Okay.
And this is everything that you do. You write your code and you push that up to GitHub. We didn't talk about branches or merging because it does get confusing. This is your master branch. Generally, when you start doing stuff, you're gonna, and so the master branch goes all the way up this way, right? It's just gonna be a big line. So if you're gonna create a feature, usually what you do is you make a branch. And this is gonna be your feature, right? You're gonna write all your code in there. You're gonna do all this fun stuff. You can put all your comments in there. Then generally what you do before you're gonna deploy it is from the feature, you have another branch that's called like a lot of times they'll call it a QA branch. And that's a quality branch. So this branch, all your comments would come out. You take all your comments and stuff out of this branch before you merged it back into the master branch to deploy it.
And then it goes into production mode.
Right.
Okay.
This branch, this feature branch is going to get merged into here, into this QA branch, so that you know everything that you've done is in this QA branch. This QA branch is going to keep going this way. Because let's say something happens and you get a bug on this branch, right? So now you need to come and you need to pull this branch out. You're going to fix the bug or whatever it is.
Okay, and then deploy it again.
You're going to fix the bug, do whatever you need to do in there, put your comments in there for it. You're going to push it back into the QA, pull, my lights just went out, pull the comments out, and then push it back to your master branch.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So what you were saying, Kyle, is essentially right. You have two, so it's like pushing two things to GitHub.
Yeah.
One branch is going to have all of your comments and everything in it. And the other branch is going to be a branch that doesn't, that'll get pushed into the master branch and continue to keep going.
But you still have to manually take the comments in and out every time, or not, or at least take them out every time manually.
Right. Yes. Well, so yeah, if you get to this point here where you're fixing bugs and you had put other comments in, like when you pull this back out, the comments that you first put in down here won't be in this one.
Oh, right. Okay.
Because you're pulling it from this one.
Okay, so you could open the other one on another tab just to like reference those comments while you're working on the code you pulled. Got it. Okay.
Without affecting it. Yeah, but you got to make sure you know where you are.
Right.
Yeah.
Save the
If
right
you
one.
guys want to, if you want to test that theory out sometime, I'll be glad to get together with you guys like over a weekend or something, and we can just to go through it, because we didn't talk about branching and merging because it gets crazy.
Yeah, if you can pull
It
that together,
definitely-
I'd like to
GitHub
attend.
party. Woohoo!
It definitely can get confusing with branches and merging, but that is, oh my God, I have all these stupid things.
So that's what went on behind the scenes when I worked for NEA. I didn't do JSON and all the behinds. I was just their search engine guru. But I was in meetings and they would talk about, all the, and I'm like, that's what they were talking about.
And a lot of times the reason that I say that it gets crazy is because what happens is, okay, so you have your master branch, right? And the boss comes and says, Kyle, I want you to work on this feature and get it done. So you create a branch and you start working on that feature. And then the boss comes and says, LaTanya, I want you to work on this feature here. So now you're working on one feature and she's working on another. You get all done and you push your code in to the master branch, right? Then the boss comes and says, Carolyn, hey, I want you to work on this feature. So
And
now
you're
you
not
got feature 1, 2,
communicating.
and 3.
Yep.
Well, Carolyn gets done before Latanya does because Latanya got a really big feature that she had to do and it took her
Thought I was
longer.
the slow one.
So Carolyn pushes her in,
Mhm.
but Latanya's isn't in there yet. Then the boss comes and says, Kyle, I want you to do one more. So now you have another branch that you have to create. And in the meantime, so you create this branch and you've pulled what the feature that you did first and the one that Carolyn did, but Latanya's isn't in there yet. She gets done before you do and pushes hers in there.
That's why you have to pull before you push. That's what Max
Right.
was talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. But then all of a sudden, because you pulled that to create the fourth feature
Mhm.
and she puts hers in, hers is going to like override and it's going to overwrite, which means that when she goes to put hers in, it's going to say, hey, wait a minute, you don't have feature 1 and feature 2 in your code. So there's these merge conflicts that you have to fix.
But if we're working on different features, are we
boss
going
was
to have
wrong.
conflict?
Yes, you will have different you will have conflicts.
All right.
The system my husband uses where he is now, they have you have to actually check out and check in. That's what we're pull and push is the same thing, right?
Yeah, you can check out a commit or a branch.
So
They call
nobody
it
else
check
can
out.
touch it.
No. Nope. That's not the same thing.
We'll have to get more in detail how that works.
Yeah.
But you always want to pull first
Mhm.
and then push and then pull again. But so when Latanya goes to put hers into the master, she's not going to have feature 1 and feature 3 that you and Carolyn had done in there. And it's going to say, hey, you have these merge conflicts because, you know, you need to put, there's all this code and you don't have it in your branch. So what she has to do is she has to look at them and she has to say, okay, here's feature 1 and feature 3. I need to keep all of these lines of code and I want to add my lines of code and it'll merge them together. When you say, yes, keep these lines of code plus my lines of code, merge them together, and then it'll all be one thing. Then when you go to put the fourth feature in, it's going to say, hey, you don't have this feature over here. So but you have feature 1 and feature 3. That's okay, but you don't have feature 2. So you're going to have to say, okay, well, I want to keep all of this code from before, and I want to keep feature 2 code and put it all together and merge. Merging, it's a mess. It can be a mess. It can be a mess.
It's like driving in Massachusetts. So you have to communicate. I mean, people on a development team, I know I'm being logical and I'm not realistic, but you have to communicate with each other too and know what when you're doing, but the software kind of gives you the heads up. So
that's why I like,
okay.
That's one of the reasons I like Get Kraken. You know, I mean, if you guys are
As
still
the
struggling
octopus.
with that, you know, I'll be glad to go over some stuff with you like on the weekend or, you know, whatever, and show you.
I've just been doing it in VS Code because it's already right there. So I haven't really looked at it much more, but I imagine Get Kraken has probably more features than VS Code.
I don't want to say that it necessarily has more features. It has more of a user interface that's easy to see. Let me see.
I mean, I guess we're doing very simple things right now, so it probably isn't as much of a concern, but it probably would help you understand what you were doing better if you're doing something more complicated, like all that branching stuff you just talked about.
Yeah, some people's mind works that way, and yeah, me too.
If I can, oh, there we go.
If I know that's why I like when Max, you know, he says duct tape my mouth and all that, but
listen,
he gives the background,
can I tell you
explanation? I mean, it's
I
awesome.
have been, I'm going to open a,
if I know how something fits into a big picture, even if I don't really have to know the big picture per se, it really helps me like do it.
Okay.
So
I am going to show you guys. my get cracking from work. You can't see any of the code, so it doesn't matter. That part doesn't matter. But I want you to see the different branches that we have. If I can get it to, wish they'd fix that. Okay. I talk to Max just about every day. So don't feel bad about that.
No, I think he's, I love the background he brings and the enthusiasm and the knowledge. I mean,
He knows a lot.
And he shares it. And I just absolutely, I get so much out, and I get stuff out of all you folks, but I just get so much out of that approach. You know, when we were talking about knowing the complicated stuff and the big picture, it's awesome.
Yep.
I'm that
Okay.
way too.
So see this right here?
Mm-hmm.
These are all the different branches right now that we have. Most of them are mine, but all the way at the bottom, let me get all the way to the bottom. So here's like the initial commit in the master branch, which is
that's
this blue.
the older stuff down the bottom.
This is the
that builds
main,
up.
this is the blue one. So there's a branch that was created here.
Oh, wow.
And work on that.
Let's see.
And then, so this blue line is the master branch. Can you guys see that?
Yeah.
I mean, because I'll try to make it bigger if I can, but
A little
I'm
bigger
not
would be good, but
sure.
I can see it. So
I don't remember what this was, so I don't know if this will
don't
work
worry
or
about
not.
it. I'm fine. I can look at it bigger. Oh no, we're not recording. Yes, we are.
So this is the main branch here. And then this was a branch that kept going from the bottom. And then there was another branch that came off right here.
So it color codes them. That's great.
So yeah, it does. And at some point, see like
Visual.
this, so right here, this branch was merged back into the master,
the-
and this
yeah.
branch was merged into the master branch.
Question.
But then, yes,
I'm sorry. The so the middle blue one is the master.
That's
branch,
the master
tree
branch.
trunk, if you will. The one that's in teal or whatever, that's another one. That's another branch.
this is a branch that
Because I was
is,
starting to look at that as the master. Okay, got it.
nope, it's been continued to work on. So at this point, it was merged into the master branch. And then we needed to add more features, so we pulled it out.
Okay.
Then, so this was
Somebody-
merged into the
Nice.
master
Somebody
branch.
pulled it into the purple one too, so they don't have
Wow.
whatever changes you put back in further
There you
up.
go.
Right. So see, right here, this branch was merged in, which was, okay, that's fine. This branch was merged in,
Mhm.
but this branch didn't have everything that this one did, right? So then they pulled it back out, go up farther, and it got pulled back out. Each branch got pulled back out to continue working on them.
Oh, I see. Those are going out. Okay.
Then at some point here, guess what? We have another feature, but it's on this branch. So we're going to break it out here. But then we're going to take what we had already and we're going to merge it back into the master branch. So it does. And then this stopped here. So like this, it's, this was all merged back in at some point.
So the only stuff that's going to end up going directly to QA and prod, or whatever you want to call it, is the main branch.
So
Everything has to
let's see
come
if I-
back to that before it can continue,
Right.
correct?
So here's we have like a QA branch that's right here, right?
Oh, okay.
And this branch right here, that's like the time cards branch, was merged into this QA branch. Create a feature, okay. Merge it into the QA branch. They go and they test it and they come back and they say, hey, you have all these bugs to fix, right? So at this point, you pull it back out and you open it. You open that branch. At the top here, you can open whatever branch you're on. So we'll start right here. Right here, we took this branch, merged it into the QA branch so they could test it and do a bunch of different stuff. Then they said, hey, we have these bugs. So you go up to the top here and you pick this, this branch that says time card extra pay, and you fix the bugs, right? And then you merge it back into the QA branch. When you merge it back into the QA branch up here, why is it not available for me? Apparently. Well, because I don't have it on my local, haha, see? But this is where you would like switch to pull it in.
Wow.
But see all these branches over here?
Yeah.
These are all the branches that I have available on the remote. So if I clicked this QA branch, which is this branch right here, that would pull that into my local repository, and then it would be on my laptop. Right
Your
now,
personal laptop or your work laptop?
my personal, because I'm on the Mac right now. I use a Windows for work. Right now, I only have these branches on my local repository. But if you guys want to, you know, like play around with it, some weekend, what we can do, we'll just like, we'll create a little repository with just some basic code, HTML, CSS in it. And then we can do, okay, we have this master branch, everybody has the master branch, and then branch off of there, and each person change a few things and then merge it back in. So just so you can see how branches and merging works if you want to.
If you can do that, that'd be awesome. If we can use Get Cracking as the interface, that'd be awesome.
It's, the Bartlett arborists of Get Cracking. Can you prune? Is that a function at all? I'm not trying to be funny. It comes to mind since we're using a tree.
That's not anything that I've ever heard.
Okay.
So,
like,
I mean, you know,
I guess
like I said,
merging is like
you guys,
pruning, right? Okay.
if you guys
never
want
mind.
to, get together, you know, some weekend or whatever, or this weekend after office hours or on Sunday or whatever, and just do something simple, for the Get Cracking, you know, I don't mind doing that with you.
Okay. Well, I'm in. Just know that I'm in.
Yeah,
I'm interested, but I gotta see where I'm at with everything before I go further.
Slack me sometimes that you guys are available. And you can do it like if the three of you want to do it together, you can tag everybody and say, hey, and then send it to me, right? So like Latanya, if you're gonna send a message, you can put you can also put, so when you go to put my name in there, you can also put Kyle, and you can put Carolyn in there. Okay. And then you guys can all, that way you guys can all say, you know, if you start out and say, hey, I'm available this time and this time on Saturday and Sunday, Kyle, you can say I'm available this, you know, these times Saturday and Sunday, and Carolyn can say I'm available these times. Then we can decide on like one time.
Or could we do like a calendar?
Yeah, well, we could, yeah.
Yeah,
we can absolutely do
I
that.
can send something out after we're done. I'll send it out like I'll mention all of us, but I'll just do it in the general one with a little note that says anybody else interested. And then hopefully we can coordinate something.
Yeah, because office hours are just going to be going over everything that we go over this week. So I want to make sure we get that taken care of. And then we can do a little side, you know, just a little side project of.
Yeah.
Right.
Awesome.
But we'll break it down. We'll break it down so that it's only 3 or 4 people on a repo, depending on how many people we get. You know, so if we get another 4 people, we'll have them make a repo and do some features and branch and merge. 4 people, you know, because if you get too many, you guys will, it'll be insane, and you guys will be frustrated, and you won't want to do it. Right.
We would want to put it in the CIC too, right? Not the general.
I would put it in the student.
Yeah, I meant the student channel. Yeah, not the resources or oh yeah, I forgot there was one even named general, but that's what I was saying.
Where does general, who does general reach? Anyone?
Everybody.
Upstate?
Yeah, it reaches everybody.
We don't want to have like this merging party and have 100 people attending. Oh God.
We may.
Yeah.
I'm going to label this wrong, and then Max is going to yell at me because I'm labeling it wrong.
Do it just to tweak them, right? No, I'm only kidding.
You're so silly.
You guys are wonderful. I never want to tweak anybody except code.
All right. Well, this was
Yeah,
wonderful. Thank you.
you're
I'm
awesome, Karen. Thanks for-
reinvigorated and ready to take on the week.
Thanks for
I was
asking
ready to
your
run the other way.
It's
which led
tough.
to Kyle's question, which, so thank you.
I would just practice as much as you can.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing,
Yeah.
And I know homework gets crazy. Turn in what you can, at least.
Yeah.
Don't get overwhelmed. Like I've been there, believe me. I was at the point where I was almost ready to say, F this, I can't do it, I'm done. Because
Well,
you start comparing yourself to other people in the class. Somebody might get something, and here's what I'm going to tell you is when you guys start presenting your capstones is when you're really going to feel like that. Because somebody will have one thing and you're like, oh my God, I don't have as much as them. I'm so far behind. I did that for like 2 or 3 weeks. And then finally I thought, what are you doing? Stop worrying about everybody else.
Yeah.
I said, stop worrying about everybody else. Focus on what it is that you are doing and what you are putting into your capstone. Sure, somebody else's might look great, but 4 weeks down the line, when it comes to putting in the JavaScript, they might not be able to do that where you can.
Or even
So
if they are, it's
you just can't.
My whole thing started in week 2 when we were trying to use InVision and all that stuff. And I was having all kinds of, my Mac and I were not friends. And it got in, and then it just kind of like spirals. And then I got to, oh my God, I can't do this. How am I supposed to, all this stuff's coming at me, all these assignments, they're going to kick me out of boot camp. They're going to think I'm no good. They're going to think, and it's like, I am leaving this class not feeling that way.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. I mean, I have no intention of like saying I'm done. I just thought.
I did it. When I was in the class, I was like, oh my God, I can't do this. I'm done. I can't do it.
Well, certain health issues are there, and I just need to be aware to protect those. But I can do this. I can
just take your breaks. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
And that was a lesson that I had to learn too.
That's hard too, though, if you're really
take
into
your
what
breaks.
you're doing and you're having fun.
Then that was it. Yeah.
Forget that you didn't. That's my personality. So learn a lot to learn with that.
Yes.
Well, you're awesome. Thank you so much, ladies. You're awesome. See you tomorrow night.
Yeah. Good night, everybody.
All right.
Good night.
Have a good night, guys.
You too.
Bye.